All right.
This is the Imperial Schools of Honor podcast. I'm Josh Folan.
And I am Jay Baxtron.
And we're going to be bullshitting about the 400 years of console gaming as we revisit the periodicals that covered it again. Today we are casting our ballots in the Nestor Awards in addition to opening a can of whoop-ass on Nintendo Power issue 22.
Whew.
You can find the issue on archive.org if you want to look at the shit we're looking at. I'll drop the link in the show notes as I always do. Please rate and review the podcast. If you feel so inclined to leave feedback in the form of a review, we'll read it here on the pod, as long as it makes us feel good and or laugh. What are we jamming on now, Jay? What are you jamming on there? Some fucking anime shit.
No, not at all anime. This you just can't really see it well. This is an awesome little indie game.
Those eyes are anime. Those are anime, bro. I don't know what to tell you. That's anime. If you,
maybe that looks anime, but like this is essentially a cut screen that happens maybe 3 times, maybe 4 times in the game. Otherwise, you're playing Zelda.
Those are Dragon Ball Z eyes.
Otherwise, you're playing.
Back off that
fair
position.
enough. Otherwise, you're playing Zelda. Like this is like a Link's Awakening kind of clone. Okay. Essentially, it's 2 mini games in one. It's a fun little adventure called Castaway by Canary Games. It's an indie game. This is awesome. So like the first, I guess, mini game is kind of like an adventure. You're on an island, looking for your dog. Like it's just like a spaceship adventure. Like I don't know, it's kind of fun. You're basically crawling through dungeons, searching for weapons. But that really just sets you up for the second adventure, which is kind of like a 50-floor dungeon where you use said weapons to go deeper, get more power-ups and things like that. So it's kind of fun. Like when I was playing it, I was thrown off at first because it seemed like, oh, did I just somehow beat the game that quickly? But I realized you started with like a mapping section for each of your buttons, A, B, X, and Y. And like the first thing you get is your sword, and that takes like the X spot. So you realize, all right, in the next 2 dungeons, like you come to find out like you get 1 weapon in each of those. So this first mini game really just sets you up to like get you used to everything before you play this 50-floor dungeon as like a secondary game, because it like rolls credits and everything after the first one. But it's funny because it really does feel, with the exception of the fact that one of the weapons is a grapple, it really does feel like Zelda, like the sword slashing.
Grapple is like
everything.
Grapple being like the hook shot specifically, which is the same thing, is like the Nintendo, the Ocarina of Time meme joke of like you have to like having to use the hook shot painfully often and obscurely is like a big Zelda joke. So that's not outside of the Zelda realm either.
Yeah, but it's fun. Like it's a surprising little fun adventure worth a few minutes of your time. I can see now like how the 50-floor dungeon, because I definitely have not made it to the 50th floor. I've made it like to floor 24 so far.
So is it like fucking roguelite type shit where you're just doing the dungeon run, or is there a story built around the dungeon stuff?
The story, no, there's no story built around the dungeon stuff as that I've seen. It's like, all right, now you're ready to go hit this dungeon, and while you're going through it, you get like sword times 2 or sword plus 1 rather, or shield plus 1, which you never had a shield before, and like little power ups like that to kind of help you press forward. But we'll see how many more power-ups and little trinkets they kind of add to the dungeons. So more to come on that, but it's still fun either way. Like I found myself just sunk in for a couple hours last night doing that, like more than I expected to, you know. Definitely worth your time. Good stuff.
Okay.
Outside of that, I have been definitely loving the Doom and Doom 2 combination that dropped on the Game Pass. Like, I played all the way through, like I texted in the chat, played all the way through the original Doom, which I had never done before, which is cool. So I can understand how...
That's heavy. That's a heavy undertaking.
No, it actually was not, man. Like, it's funny. It was so smooth, and I gotta imagine there's some measure of, like, control smoothness, because I already had, like, the Doom 2 version anyway, but like this, even when I got to Doom 2, felt like a lot smoother. So I feel like they've, massaged the controls, made it easier. But either way, I could see how when they made the first Doom, because I never played that one as a kid, I only started with Doom 2 and moved forward. I can see how anybody who played the original Doom was like, oh my gosh, we have something here. We just got to add some stuff and like bring it to Doom 2.
Oh, for sure. Doom 2 is definitely a huge upgrade.
Oh my
Doom's
gosh.
cool, but there's just more interesting shit going on with the second one.
Yeah, for sure. So I like moved into the second one, and I'm just playing it to try to play through it because I don't think I quite beat.
Yeah, I never beat it either. I tried to.
Yeah,
when they dropped all those, they were remasters, but they were, they dropped them on Xbox however long ago. I bought that pack and tried to play through 2, and yeah, I got stuck at some point or another. I don't know, somewhere in the middle, I would guess. And yeah, it was just like, like I kind of, it's the same, it's just harder, and the payoff is not worth it.
I don't know, man. I am focused on beating it now because of that. I'm like, I remember I didn't complete it, and I know before though. I think maybe because of the way my brother influenced me, because I was playing on his computer. I always tried to get the secrets and stuff like that, but now I'm just trying to like beat it. Like I'm not trying to find every secret. I'll search for secrets, sure, but I'm not going to like try to 100% every level.
Couldn't. Yeah, it's fucking.
Just try to get through
it. There's way too much shit. Yeah. I mean, like I told you when I was playing Wolfenstein in VR, I was on this in the beginning trying to get all the secrets, and really what that turns into in those games is you're literally just walking along walls hitting the button. And yeah, it's not a fun way to play a video game.
It's funny though, because I think because of that though, when I play the current Doom, which I still haven't beat, but I'm still making my way through, I absolutely am searching for all the stuff. Like I know I'm missing something. I'm going to come back here and like get that.
Well, it's because it's the new games. They're more in, it's not as stupidly, it's not,
of course,
you don't catalyze them via that super stupid, tedious means.
Exactly.
You it's like a fucking modern game. So yeah, it's not at all the same equation to fucking find that shit. Yeah, it's just not any fun at all. And with Doom, I don't think this became a thing in Wolfenstein. But with Doom, it's not just the spacebar stuff. It's also shooting some of them. So sometimes you have to shoot the wall, and sometimes you have to do the and like the idea that you have to try both things on every single fucking panel in the level. Like, get out of here. Yeah. That's not any fun. That's zero fun.
Definitely for some of them, I was like, where was there a secret? Like, what do you mean zero? What do you mean? I'm like, what are we talking about? Yeah. I'm just like,
yeah, that was way too many of them.
Yeah. Either way, very fun. And also, there's a bunch of other, because I'm playing through, obviously, I play through 1, I'm playing through 2. But there's also a bunch of additional content that seemed to have been released after that, but in the same vein of Doom 2 specifically. Like, a follow-up to Doom. Like, this is in the style of Doom.
Just WADs? Or?
No, they seem to be just, like, straight-up additional content. Like, I don't remember the names of them because I haven't gotten to them yet. I just kind of scrolled through them and kind of saw, like, one was, like, released in 2006. One was released in, like, 1997. One was released in, like, just random times. One was like some unofficial, like Doom 3 that they canceled. Or, you know what I mean? One was like, so like a bunch of, and then like this was the original. This was the like official like successor to Doom 2.
Well, some of them, some of them they like, the.
All with weird different names.
The mod community is so robust with Doom 2 and has been for 30 years that. There have definitely been instances where ID compiles some user-generated, created stuff and then releases it as official, So some of that stuff, I would guess, is probably that. But there's just,
at least one of those is like that. Yep.
Right, yeah. I mean, there's a near infinite amount of additional stuff out there that you can plug into Doom 2 via the WAD stuff. The WAD fucking editing. Yeah, it's such a wild. Define remaster to me.
Well, no, these are not remastered to me. Like, these just feel like it looks the same, it feels the same, it just feels smooth. Like, obviously, like when I was a kid, I played it with my brothers. I think he had like a joystick and keyboard. I think we did joystick and keyboard kind of situation. So like to me, just using my Xbox controller feels smooth. Like I feel like they had to do something. Either way, Like it looks and feels the same. So I don't know if it's specifically remastered. I don't know what
how
they've
is
done
this
to it.
I was gonna say, how the fuck? Yeah, it's remaster is the verbiage that's getting thrown around when this happened a couple weeks ago. And like I said, they were already on Xbox in their complete forms. I had them years ago. So what the fuck is the difference then?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't go do some side-by-side comparison. I love the Doom. I realized playing through this, I love the Doom franchise itself, and that's why I'm excited to play through all these like random iterations that even look the same, that aren't like you would think like, oh, if this one was released in 2000, if this one was released, in 2006, maybe this is a graphical upgrade. But no, like they're still in the Doom 2, like same vein, potentially same engine.
It would be interesting, yeah,
kind of thing.
I would be curious because I can't like for some. It's funny. This is applicable to all those games in particular, like the Wolfenstein. I think there was a level editor, but it was not the same thing as far as how well it was engaged. But both the Dooms, obviously, and then Duke Nukem 3D had that community. Quake had that community where people were making their own levels and all these different mods, yada, yada, yada. And there's so much of it that it's overwhelming, and I can't even begin to engage it because it's just too much. I don't know where to begin, and the idea of spending time just like searching for stuff and like just randomly trying ones that could be bad, like I just can't bring myself to do that even in the 30 years that have passed since this community was started, So if someone could, and this may even exist, but it would have to be brought to my attention too to probably get me to engage it. I don't want to search for that either, but like a curated sampler platter of the things that are available both in level creation and just mod stuff. Like that's kind of the cool thing about one of the cooler things about, I mean, it's obviously just cooler in VR also, but that Quest Z Doom platform on Quest that allows me to play all those games in VR, Quakes, Dukes, Dooms, all of them, is it's just a menu system for applying the various modifications. That's how you play Legend of Doom, the Legend of Zelda one, and then the Castlevania one. They're just literally a button you click in the UI to set up and launch the game. It's like a launch box that allows you to just toggle things, and it's like it's even tiered. So you have like the first tier is like full world mods, and that's where you can set it to like Doom or Legend of Zelda or Castlevania. Or there's alien ones like H.R. Geiger Alien, James Cameron Alien. There's a range of other ones that are kind of like full reskins into another story world. But then below, different tiers below that also have just like weapon packs or increased gore or just various like kind of still broad but not complete changes to the game that allow you to kind of just change your experience in ways that are like easily discernible. And like I said, it's just a toggle. I don't have to download anything. I don't have to try anything that doesn't work. I don't have to do... these are already kind of like pre-approved by the developers of the UI, of the launch box, that these are cool and they work correctly, and all you got to do is turn them on to engage that. So like, if someone could do that, kind of like that was the cool thing about that VR mod to Outer Wilds as well, was that the community for that game is so fucking enthusiastic that someone built a mod UI. So again, it takes all the bullshit out, and it literally, you just toggle a button, and not only does it downloads it, installs it, and then it allows you to turn it on and off right there in the thing. You don't have to do any of your own shit. You know what I mean? So if they could do that, if someone has done that, rather, please, fucking listeners, bring it to my fucking attention, because that would be really cool.
This actually does have community mods. Like, I pulled up the actual article on this, and so I haven't looked at that. I realized there's a bunch of stuff in the menu. I don't pay attention to it yet. I'm just like, I've been jumping in. But there is multiplayer, which there never was. Like, there's online co-op and deathmatch.
That's cool. That is the remaster.
Deathmatch multiplayer up to 16
I don't
players,
believe that was present. Yeah. I can't imagine we wouldn't have done that.
That was definitely not present. Are you kidding me? We would have
the last
gone
one.
Nuts.
We would have done it for sure back when I was playing that. So that is cool for sure. Obviously,
So
that's a good addition.
So all of that is good. Plus, it also says there's a brand new episode, which is like the actual official succeeding episode to Doom 2, which is great. But then community mods. And so, like, to me, that would be the most foreign thing to me. That would be the last thing I would check out. But for people who are big into that, you know, I'm sure they would dive in. So if anybody tells,
and it like explains what the fuck they are.
Yeah,
and it's like all right, cool.
Because I think I actually might have clicked on it once and just kind of said, oh, there's a whole section on like mods here,
it's like
and
an
I'm
overwhelming list of things.
Yeah, like
I can't. Fucking,
I'll check it later.
Yeah. At least in a consumable UI, there's at least a hint of feasibility to engage in it. But yeah, I mean, in the no front end greasing of the wheels for that. It's just like it's always just been like it makes me sweat to even think about fucking trying to figure out and go through all the things that are available. So that's cool. Very cool. Word. Okay.
Yeah. So loving on that, and then the last game that I've been just like dipping my toe into, just getting started. I noticed this game was released pretty recently on Xbox called Remnant 2. It was like very well received game, and I'm like, oh, I would love to play that. But again, another game that I'd never even heard of the first one. So I looked back at my games to be played later, and I realized, oh, I actually own that game. I got this a while ago. And so I booted it up, played through kind of the starter world, and I'm just kind of dipping my toe into it, and it sounds fun. Like I don't even really know how to explain it yet. I feel like I need to like really get into it yet to like really give a full review, but I'm excited to kind of play through that as well. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's very ambiguous throwing out there.
Oh yeah.
Here's no information about it, but
not at all. Remnant. Yeah. Like it. Okay. Well, the cool thing is it's actually co-op, which I did not know. Like you can play it by yourself easily online, totally fine, or not online, offline, or you can play it co-op and just run with other people you know, which is cool. But it sounds like it's mission based. But again, like I don't know all the details yet because I just played through like the place by myself. You basically got to pick a kind of like a class, almost like really a type of person. Like you are post-apocalyptic. I don't really know what happened yet, but I am either like a wasteland ranger or I'm like a scrapper. I'm like building armor out of things, or I don't remember what the third one is. Like
okay, Fallout bite. Okay,
yeah, kind of like thing, but like, and then you pick that type, and now I don't know what's happening next. It looks like there's a base. It looks like I might be able to just like level up and get different armor. I don't know. But again, like this is much more than I expected. I kind of thought this was just like a first player solo adventure game, which clearly it does have that option. Like it clearly says like offline play solo, like you can totally do that. But also the fact that I could be like, hey, jump on and play this game with me sounds really cool and makes me excited, So it has promise. I don't want to like oversell it because like I said, I'm just got to dip my toe in. These like creatures are coming at me. Like they're like, the enemy is called like the Root. Like I think it's this, I can't remember if they were like aliens that invaded or what. Like I can't remember the details, but it's interesting enough that I am like, okay, I'm ready to play through this and give it some full attention.
Yeah, Fallout's cool, even if it's a rip or actually Fallout.
No, this is actually, this feels a lot different than Fallout to me. Like this feels like Fallout is much more like you're in the open world, like, let's see what happens. What are you going to do? Are you going to build a shelter? Are you going to like survive? This feels much more directed, than less open world, like run around and figure it out type of thing. Cause you can like join a session and look for somebody to like kind of play forward with you. So, but like much less, not quite Back for Blood where you're like, hey, now we're just moving this zone to zone together. It feels kind of like a hybrid between the two. And so, yeah, I will talk more about it next time.
Copy that.
What about you, sir? What have you been jamming on these days?
I finished that work thing on the 3rd, and so I hadn't fucked with anything in forever, over a month, really. And coming out of that, I didn't have anything. Like I finished Asgard's Wrath 2, so I didn't like have something, Mm-hmm. So I kind of like for like a week, I kind of just like wandered aimlessly through my UI, like because I have a bunch of stuff I've bought and not fully finished.
Right.
There's like that Night in the Attic game that was like a little like a labyrinth type thing where you had to like roll the sides and move the whole board and the thing rolled around. Like I have that I haven't finished. I have this game Ghost Giant, I think it's called, that's kind of very Moss like, which Moss is the game with the cute ass mouse and you're like,
oh yeah,
it's like a fairy tale world, those are great games. The Ghost Giant one, I've tried to play it a couple times and it's clunky. There's something wrong with it. I even noticed, it's kind of funny. So last time, whenever I had played it originally, I got stuck at this one point. And this game's been out for a long time, so the idea that this happened is very odd to me. But I played it, I got stuck functionally this thing. You can only like turn 3 clicks. So you don't have like 360 degrees. You're like this omnipotent thing. It's very Moss-like in that regard. In Moss, you're kind of like, you're a god that's assisting like a little sprite. Right. And you control the sprite and the god hands. So you like are juggling between the two to solve puzzles and engage enemies and yada yada. This one, you're just the god. But you only have like 3 clicks of turning, so you don't have like full 360 degree view of the world. And like I got stuck on this thing where I literally couldn't seem to do whatever I was supposed to do. And I tried firing that back up again, and I got back to that same point, and they had like added this kind of FAQ moment where like the thing kind of the little character that I'm like overseeing like explained something to me about that thing that I wasn't able to figure out or do last time.
Okay.
I still couldn't do it. I still wasn't able to do, but it gave me information for it. So that suggested to me that there had been complaints since I last played it. And the developers tweaked that exact little moment. And it's funny to me that they not only, again, for how long it's been out, years, I think. Like the idea that it would come this late is weird to me, and 2 that it would just happen. It hasn't been like it's not like a year ago I played it. It was like a couple months ago or something, So yeah, I don't know, that was just interesting to me, and even more so and sad that I still couldn't get past that part. So like something's I don't know. It's not it's quite satisfying in that there's functional shit that's just not working. So whatever, try that. Didn't play it because I couldn't get anywhere, and digging around, doing that, kind of just going back to apps that whatever. I fired up Waltz of the Wizard again. Do you remember me talking about this? This is the one that was like, you're literally doing wizard shit. It's very sandboxy. There were voice commands and stuff. That,
voice commands.
So like a long time ago, I had fucked with this, and like my big criticism when I first was fucking around with it was that it was too much of an undeveloped sandbox. Like there's all this super cool shit you could do, and all these spells and like all these ingredients and all this shit you can engage in this tower and then down in this courtyard. But it was just a sandbox, and there was this level by level dungeon thing you could go into, but it was kind of weakly designed, and you didn't have, at least I wasn't able to use all the same like wild functionalities necessarily. There was still a bunch of cool shit you could do down there and cast a bunch of spells, but it just wasn't the same in my view. And the sandboxy thing was cool to fuck with for a while, but you kind of just like eventually you do a bunch of stuff and you're like, okay, what's the point of this? The dungeon thing isn't fun. The sandbox mode is only fun for a finite period of time. So just like, what am I going to do with this, So I kind of put it down and let it fall by the wayside. And I fired that back up, and they've added a bunch of new shit. Yeah. And dude, you have to, with your like wizard affinity, you have got to try this, dude. And I think it's super cheap, dude. I mean,
wait a minute. What was the game that we played together where we did wizardy stuff? What was that game?
It wasn't
in VR.
This is definitely solo player. I don't remember.
What? We played a game in VR that was wizardy. Like we were both in. There's only one game. Like what?
Dungeons of Eternity?
Was that in VR?
It's VR, yeah, but it's not. Dungeons of Eternity isn't really wizardy. You have like a bow and arrow or melee weapons. You don't really cast any spells.
Oh, I think maybe I grabbed a wizard staff in that.
Well, there is a staff, yeah. So I guess that's kind of
okay. Yeah, never mind. Yeah. Okay, carry on.
So give me some weird. That's just a dungeon crawler. That's a completely different deal. That's much more. That's a roguelite. You're just doing short dungeon runs, and then you go back and get loot, or spend the loot to buy new weapons. That's amazing. I still play that randomly all the time. That's developed a lot too, and much harder now. But not what I'm talking about here. Yeah, this is much more focused on like you have to learn ingredients and you have to learn hand motions, and there's just I don't know anything that's ever come close in like truly trying to recreate the Wizard experience in that you have to learn how to do these things, you know, and like I remember kind of saying this last time, but it's like that may sound easy, like, but there's different. It's just it's complex. I don't want to say complicated and make it sound like bad. It's just complex, and you have to spend time getting good at this stuff to really be able to use it on command in moments where you're like presented with an adversary.
That sounds like a stressful real life experience.
It is stressful. It's if you allow yourself to care, it is definitely stressful. But that's why it's cool. If there were no stakes, it wouldn't be any fun.
Leviosa, I said it wrong. Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah, dude. There you know, there's I think 16 base spells, but there's also, you know, different ways to implement them, and it's really fucking cool. And yes, they've added, even to the sandbox mode, they've added some new areas and stuff, and like they basically gave it more of a, because that was the problem even too with the sandbox thing. Like, yes, all this shit's available to you, but you're not really directed to utilize it in a way that forces you through the practice part of it, you know what I mean? And learning the things and trying them out and seeing them in practice in different ways that you could then apply them to a problem set you might be presented in a more straightforward game situation, you know what I mean? So it's added all these things to help you kind of practice and like make you use these things to solve things in a world, or solve problems that you might be presented in a world, which is good, of course, because it helps you just fully build out like playing the game, you know? So that's cool. And, you know, they added all these, like, there's like hand motion stuff that they've kind of added, like getting this ring, and then that allows you to like do these things, and then or different new things, and the voice command stuff is still there. So like talking through your hands to create an energy you know, it's just, there's just so much to it, dude, that someone who enjoys the idea of magery, I don't know how you wouldn't have a blast with it, especially at the price point that I don't even know what it's at now, but I remember, and it's been built out a little bit, so maybe they've added a few bucks to it, but there's no way it's more than $20. So it's rather cheap. I'd guess it's probably less than that still. And yeah, for that price point, it's such a cool thing, you know, and yeah, I just cannot recommend it enough if you're into that kind of thing.
Okay.
So yeah, it's super cool. So I fucked with that a little bit, and then started. But it's still a sandbox, and like I said, it's not. There's not the dungeon component of it is still just not cool enough to make it a great game yet. But it's like the coolest tech demo I've ever seen, I think, which is cool. So yeah, I finished fucking around with that and started looking for something new, and I had heard about this game called Humans. One of the podcasts had mentioned it, one of the VR podcasts, and they kind of talked about it. They, you know, Puzzler, so I'm immediately piqued by that, and it was one of the games that they allowed you to you can try it out for free for 40 minutes or something. Nice. Which I just don't know why they don't do this for everything.
That'd be amazing.
If it's good. And I've seen it more and more, so they're learning, like, developers are learning, like, this is a great idea, idiot, that, you know, especially with VR, where so much of it does this feel good, too. Yeah. Right, yeah. So it's, a very smart thing to be doing, and this application was smart enough to do it. And yeah, I think 30, 40 minutes, whatever it was, and I was like, at the end of it, I was like, yeah, I gotta give me more. Oh my god, this is fucking great. It's Lemmings in VR, dude.
That's why I'm like, what the hell's behind you? Like, is this floating Lemmings?
It's fucking Lemmings, dude. It's Lemmings with a dope ass story in VR. So it's very much the same thing where you are, you know, there's like this little doorway, and at the start of the level, humans just start pouring out of it in mass, walking in one direction, and they'll just walk off and die in the void if you don't. You control this little your like cursor or whatever is this cute little dog that runs around panting, and with that dog, you lay down commands on the ground, very similar to the way you would designate a lemming in Lemmings to start doing a certain task, and then that changes the environment in some way, shape, or form. So in this case, you're not changing the environments. Well, you eventually start maybe pushing blocks and stuff, but generally speaking, you're not really tweaking the environment. You're tweaking the route that you're sending this flow of humans through to get them to a goal tile where they are then transported up to whatever. It's fucking heaven or something. So you the first thing you get is just a turn command. So you lay down a turn, they can turn any one of the 4 directions, cardinal directions, and at that, when they hit that tile, they just all turn and start walking that new direction. So you can lay down multiple of these to guide them through a little thing, whatever, to get them to a thing. Now, of course, that gets more complicated as you progress through levels, and then you also get new commands. So you can start doing a jump, and then a high jump, and then a long jump, and then you can... I just got one in the new thing I'm in right now where you can... when they walk onto this tile, they split and start walking 2 opposite directions. And half of them go each way. So there's reasons you would need and want to do that in these new levels. So it's puzzle crack, dude. It is and it's also... It's done in this really beautiful kind of void-y white space game world that's very reminiscent to me of Cubism, where literally playing it is just soothing if you're not in a stressed out moment where you're fucking up and sending them in the wrong direction or something. When you solve a problem and you get them going, when the level ends, you can just sit and watch it. You can just sit and watch it go and work the right way that you designed, and just watch them walk through the thing and go into the thing and just keep going endlessly, And when I solve a puzzle or a level that was a little tougher, I'll just sit and watch that shit for a minute or two and just be proud of my work, you know what I mean? As with the system I designed. It's very reminiscent. I was just talking to, it's not probably the same guys that were talking about this, I think, the Let's Talk Oculus guys. I was talking to the one guy, Dan, on Twitter yesterday about... They mentioned in their last episode that last Clockwinder game, which was the basketball shot game, where you throw the fruit and design the systems with the automaton robots and shit. And he was talking about, they were talking about whatever great games that they hadn't played, and that he mentioned he still on to do, and he really has been meaning to do it. And I was like, dude, that game, it's the coolest, best implementation of VR possibility and functionality I've ever seen. And the same thing with that. When I would solve one of those puzzles and design a system that worked, and they volley into each little automaton robot and then get it into the fucking goal, I would just sit and watch that shit after, because it's such a it's one of those things where there's an endless, maybe not endless, especially in the early levels, but there's just so many different ways to solve a given puzzle that it feels like a creative work when it's done. It's not, you didn't just solve this binary fucking problem set that everyone's going to solve the same way. You solve it in your own creative whatever, and you can do it in different ways that obviously are more satisfying when you overcome a difficult problem, So it's just, I will sit and watch that shit mesmerized for an extra minute or two. And they also, so there's that, that's the core of it. There's also the little bonus system they have, or they're called Goldies, and they're these kind of larger character models that are just standing somewhere, or they're somewhere you have to basically pass the flow of humans through them, and then they go down into the mass, and they will walk with the group of people towards wherever you're sending them. So these are they're your your bonus goals or whatever, and when you get them and you are able to get them safely to the goal, which it's a one-time thing. If you have, they walk off and die, they're gone. You have to restart the stage. So it's kind of a very, I don't know, there's a lot of finality to making the choice to pick them up and go. You have to make sure you have it figured out right, or you're going to have to restart the level. So you get those and you accumulate them, and they act as the achievement reward system in the game, basically. And they've done a really good job with those in how they, the subtle quality of life improve. They're not game breaking though. They're just cool, subtle quality of life improvements that you get new functionality for by accumulating these things and doing the extra work to safely get them to the goal too, and not just the masses of humans. You know what I mean? And that's just really cool. So there's a lot of cool quality of life stuff, and then actually creative I think, not just like different clothes. Some of them are different clothes or whatever, but there's also some cool like creative cosmetic things that you can do to the humans to make it more funny looking or more fun to watch them walk in mass off a cliff or to a goal or whatever. So it's just it's a beautifully done game. I mean, it was like, the flat screen one was one game of the year or something. It's like, it's
really
not a surprising thing that the VR iteration.
What's the game called?
Good. Humans. That's it.
Why is it not?
Yeah, it's by the name of the developer. Weird. The name of the developer. Oh, I'd have to look it up. I don't recall off the top of my head. But yeah, try Humans VR, and that will get you the.
Because it keeps giving me all kind of weird different things.
Yeah, I mean, humans is a tough word for sure. But I was able to, like, it was like when I was looking for this image behind me, it was probably, I don't know, between the 10th and 20th return on Google Images.
Man.
When I typed Humans
like,
VR.
He keeps trying to give me, like, human anatomy and something like that. I don't care. Like, why would I care about anatomy? Like,
yeah, do Humans VR Quest, and it'll for sure come up. But yeah, there's a flat screen one too, so you don't have to play it in VR if you don't want to. But again, I don't know, it's honestly cooler, I think.
I'm gonna have to check out the flat screen.
Dude, it's so fucking good, dude. It's so satisfying, and yeah, I just cannot stop. And I refuse. It's like I feel so incentivized to do the bonus stuff to get those goldies. Like I will not proceed to the next level until I have them, So like there's a lot of drive to completionist approach the game for sure, and not just blow through levels. It's so beautifully done. And there's a cool story too. I mean, I'm only, I'm in the third world or whatever, so I haven't fully developed it, but the idea, you're definitely some kind of like creator-esque, godlike. You're in some system to become one, or there's some functionality you are trying to present to these masses, and it takes the effort to like explain to you that the humans, like, they're souls, not people, and when they die and just walk off a fucking cliff and just die in mass as you're trying to solve these puzzles, you don't need to feel bad for them. They are, they are reincarnated or recreated, or they come back through the door, basically. So it's like they are not finite physical beings; they are souls, and yeah. So there's this really high concept, beautiful story thing going on. I think that is also a nice driver for moving through the game too. Is I want to know what's happening with that for sure. So that is also well done. It's not just a cool puzzle game. So yeah. High praise, man. It was a real, it's the kind of thing. When I heard them talking about it, I was like, oh, that's fucking, I'm going to go off deep end on that for sure. So I was not at all surprised. I felt that way once I got into it. But yeah, in doing so, whatever, fucking cemented that feeling for sure. It's a really, really good game. So, been playing that mostly. I did get in and I'm still working through the backlog of walkabout courses I've missed, and Amy and I tried out the Venice one recently, maybe earlier this past week, and it's beautiful, very relaxing. The music in the boats stuff going on, like the canals, that you would expect the Venice one to be, is pretty cool. Hardest ball hunt, I think, by a margin, probably. Man. Like I only got about half of them on my first pass through, and when we buy a level and play that, for sure, we like spend a lot of time hunting for balls together even. And yeah, I only found about half of them, so not good, Bob. I haven't done the putter hunt yet. That might actually be on the to-do. Maybe we'll do that tonight. I don't know, but we haven't gotten to that yet. But I'm sure, my guess would be that will be quite difficult too. If the ball hunt's hard, I would expect the putter hunt to also be difficult. So that's out of the way. I only have 2 left that I haven't fucked with. There's one for Wallace and Gromit that just dropped, and you have kids, so I'm guessing you know what that is, right?
Yeah, it's like
right.
But I feel like that's from. Yeah, I've seen it somewhere. I don't even know if my kids would know the names
guy and a
of
dog,
it, but yeah, I've seen it.
So that one, that's their most recent one. I haven't played that one, so I don't know. It's of course all the stuff I've heard about it is of course great. It's not like they've ever dropped one. Everyone's like, "Oh, that's shitty." No one's ever said that. Even the fucked up upside down one.
Yeah,
yeah. Even that, it's like, yes, it's frustrating, but it's not because it's bad. It's because the physics that they intended it to have are just wonky and different and tough, So there's that one, and then there's the Ice Layer one, which is the other like spy 50s one that came out after that first one that I do have, and I kind of hate. I'm not really into that aesthetic, so maybe that's one I'll never get to, perhaps. But unless I'm really in a content pinch, I don't know. But the Wallace and Gromit one I'll probably check out for sure. So that, and then the only other thing I had to talk about was that quest I set out on, and that analog quest I set out on recently, the every X-Men issue ever. I started with. I'm through I think the first 8 issues now. Okay. And they're each like, these early issues are like 30. They're 36 pages in the reader, but each one of them has like a bunch of fucking ads in and shit. And like that's I'm so glad that they included that, because the ads are nuts. They're bananas. They're from the 60s, these first issues are in the 60s. So they're crazy, man. There's so many of them that are like trained to become a auto mechanic, like improve your life, like become a fucking, learn this trade. And then like there's a ton of them that are like become a strong man, and like even the guys they show are not impressive by modern standards, Yeah, so there's that. There's one something to do. There's like a female version of that, like somehow I forget, some sort of way of becoming more desirable as a female. And like, these are full page ads, that are in there. So yeah, they're wild, man. So the fucking ads are nuts in there. So those are fun, but obviously the meat is the story. And man, I kind of fucking hate these early ones. It's so hokey and so, I don't know, they're trying, there's the first issue, of course, is just like, it's like literally 30 pages of exposition. It's like and not even like, it's not exposition like cool backstories about where these people came from, which would be more interesting. It's exposition and like, it's the first day of their training at the X Mansion, and Professor X is taking Cyclops, Beast, Angel, Marvel Girl, and Iceman like through danger room exercises, and it's literally just a step-by-step explanation of what their powers are, which But wait, are you reading the first one too? I thought you were starting with Giant Size. No, yeah, that was a misspeaking. That is the first one in the file.
Yeah. Because that's like really the relaunch of...
Well, exactly, in the 70s, right. And that's kind of what I can't wait for, is that iteration of them, and moving forward into the early to mid-90s is where I really...
But you went way back. You went to
I went to the very first. Yeah, the very
I've definitely done that.
Yeah, it's not... They're not
entertaining. They're not as good, no.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's part of the writing in the 60s. It's just, like, they're, it's like fucking...
They just wrote humor, whatever
culture. Yeah. It's just not. They're just not. It's so far behind that it's tough to relate to. In the same way that an old movie is tough to relate to. It's like you don't have. It's like it's just not a developed story medium to the degree that it is now, and it's super hard to engage as a result. So that's one thing about it that's interesting, I suppose. One of the things that I guess I kind of am getting positively out of it is I'm shocked at how early some of the stalwart story things were introduced. Like Asteroid M first appears in issue fucking 5. Appeared as Asteroid M, called that. Like, I just would have guessed arbitrarily, if I had to guess, I would have thought that, that was something that like appeared as just a place without a name. And then we come back to it, and eventually we hear what its name is, and maybe the name has changed over the years. I had not expected to just be appear. Oh, we are at Asteroid M now, and it's like in the yellow box that explains the setup, like the editor setup for the part of the story we're entering. Not even dialogue out of people's mouth, in passing. It's like literally like the editors. This is what we're calling this. That's the name of this place moving forward. Get to know it, And it's really interesting how many things like that I've noticed in these first handful of issues that I just would not have guessed came around or came to be that early. The storyline early is like, Magneto is he? I think is it the first? It was like the first or second issue you first see Magneto. Even that surprised me.
Oh yeah,
even that surprised me. Like I would not have guessed that he whatever. And he and his whole kick. They work so hard on the Homo sapiens versus Homo superior shit and that early stuff. It's it is just like grotesquely repetitive how often he is like saying the Homo superiors are superior. Fuck you, Homo sapiens. You know, like it's so proclamative.
they got to let you know what's happening because you don't have any backstory at all. It's just any like context. This is the bad guy. He hates these guys. Remember, he hates them.
Yeah, and it's so forget. There's like that one of those first few issues where he goes to the military base and he's talking to the general and he's the general's like, the fuck, who the fuck are you? Like, get the fuck, you're in that stupid ass outfit. Get out of here. And he's like, you homos. He goes into like this completely unrealistic speech that he would give. Yeah, it's so bad from like believable, organically presented story in the way it would be judged in a modern context. You know, it's hilarious to me.
Yeah, I think it's funny too because like obviously it didn't really get popular until the 70s with the giant size X-Men and then moving forward after that, But the cool thing,
I wonder if that's because it's the first 128 issues. I wonder. I mean, it's got to at least get me to that giant size X-Men if that's in this lot. So is that supposed to be like issue 129? I remember. I don't expect you to answer this question, but I just wonder if I'm literally reading up to that exact moment with this pack of 129 issues that I got off Archive. That's where I got it, by the way, is archive.org. Okay. So you don't have to have a Marvel subscription or whatever to read these things. You can literally download these 129 issues starting from number 1, full scans off archive.org. So if you want to partake in this quest, it is very achievable,
Yeah, I mean it's just funny to me because of the writing and the way that you kind of we laugh about it and joked about how that was. It's funny in the current times how they've done recent stories where they've brought not even now also, but even like the run before the current like House of X, all that kind of stuff that happened. They brought the original X-Men, that same cast of 5, but into the current context in like unique ways. Like they first did it before the House of X, like, oh, what would happen if like, because of the weird time stuff that was happening, we just brought them here and they got stuck. And it's like, now you're here, live life. And like, now let's see. And like put them in different situations where you don't have to like deal with all that stuff. And then like, even in the current run, like just having them like function differently has been super fascinating because you like those characters. And like, for example, Iceman, he was like a joke and like whack before, and like even the way they draw him was very snowbally in the beginning. Yeah. But like now,
well, literally this last issue I read, he was commanded in the danger room by Professor X to do something with his ice crystals that made him less snowbally and more of how he's kind of the more angular, sexy Iceman. So there was even like that's kind of what I mean is like there's like this moment of like. You can see the development, even at issue 7 of like, it'd be better if you look this way. Yeah. How do we figure out a story way to introduce that and start making it a norm, And that's what I am most excited about is, describing like being able to, if I don't die before I get to this modern phase, like to be able to appreciate everything that they might be trying to pepper in with these callbacks, etc., will be super cool.
But that's what I mean. Like it'll be hard to go back. For me at least, as a self-professed super fan, it would be hard to go back and not think of Iceman as like the Omega level mutant as we know him now, and all like the crazy stuff he can do with moisture anywhere. You know what I mean? And like I don't know.
I'm coming at it from a very modern knowledge-based context as well, and that's part of the frustration.
So how many issues are you in right now? How many issues are you?
I think I just read issue 8.
8, okay.
So yeah, super early. I'm not even. I think it might not have been monthly right away, so I might be a year or so. Because I'm like, that's the interesting thing about it too, dude. Because they just like a couple issues ago introduced like a letter section for the first time, so you get the reader feedback and people talking about their excitement, yada yada, and. In the same way that an early Nintendo Power letter, it feels like they're trying to, they're printing letters that build their confidence up about what this is. But even before that happened, like read the first issue, dude. It's like, it is so like boastful about like, this is the most exciting group of teens you've ever, it's just so
salesy? Is it like get you?
Yeah, salesy is a great way to put it. They are trying to sell you that this is the coolest new thing ever, and that's I feel that's present even in the showmanship of cinema and everything in that era. Like there was less media coverage, and it was harder for people to find critical analysis of creative works. So there was more leeway for a content creator, a creative work creator, to kind of mislead or, manipulate someone's willingness to buy their thing, So that's more prevalent. Not my point being, it's not just a comic thing that Marvel's doing. I kind of think that was the landscape for creative work commerce at the time. That was I feel that way. Like if you look at like movie ads and stuff, like print movie ads from the 50s and 60s, like it's kind of the same thing. Like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever, and like you would never see that. They do it differently now. They try to like put it. They like put the reviewer comment on it that like this is the third party vindication of the same thing they wanted to tell you firsthand in the 50s and 60s. You know what I mean? So it's not just a comic criticism, but it is interesting to watch because it's in the writing. They're like part of the editor dialogue in those yellow fucking square boxes is like trying to convince you to buy the next issue right there in the text.
Oh yeah,
in a very, very discernible way that is not present in the current writing style or whatever, So that's just kind of these functional things is also part of the interesting aspect of it too. It's not just the story catch up. It's also like looking at the nuts and bolts of it back then was just so different and interesting,
Oh man, yeah. This is so fascinating. I'm like going through all of it's funny. I used to be able to tell you exactly at which point like it switched over and like the new team like took over, but like I don't remember.
I don't know if I knew exactly, but
which one was
I definitely had that first set of Marvel cards, and I knew a whole lot of benchmarks, fucking stuff that I don't recall specifically. Like that card set had like famous issues of. And I mean, that's how I know of Giant X-Man existing. Mm-hmm. That's how I know of so many issues. That's why I know 181 is Wolverine. 181 Hulk is Wolverine's first appearance. I know all that shit. Partly from collecting comics too, and just know those being Target issues. But my first introduction to learning a lot of that stuff would have been that first set of Marvel cards that came out in whatever that would have been, like probably 89, 90 or something like that. I still have the whole set of them. But yeah, that's a fucking...
That's right. So at 93 is the last one. And then it's Giant Size X-Men #1. And then 94, it's the all new, all different X-Men.
Really? So that's interesting. That's interesting how they grouped this set of them. That's exciting to hear that I'm going to, at the end of this, without having to find a new bundle on archive.org, I'm going to get into the era that I'm most curious to know about. Because, I mean, that, even like I errantly started reading like the first, 10 pages of Giant Size X-Men before I started with issue 1. And like the way Giant Size X-Men works, it's kind of vignette-y, and they're just introducing the new characters. Like Nightcrawler, they start with Nightcrawler, he's being chased in this French village, and they're trying to like burn him at the stake or something. Mm-hmm. And then they go to Banshee, and then they go to Colossus. So like I got to like Colossus, and I was like, this isn't the beginning. I made an error here. I need to put this down and stop reading and recalibrate what the fuck I'm doing. So yeah, even like it's clearly like they're introducing a whole new set of people with that issue for sure, just in the way it's done. So yeah, I'm very excited. And that is just like Storm 2 is introduced there, and actually that was one of the ones I read too in that little initial few pages. So yeah, just fucking that 100% is literally why I did this. I actually kind of hate all these characters. I don't like any of these original X-Men.
They don't get cool in any respects until much later. Like until much later. In specific runs.
I've never liked Cyclops. I loved that. That's kind of why I love the era, because that Giant Size X-Men, that group
you hate Archangel?
Initially doesn't even have Cyclops. Like I don't know. They become X Factor. Like that whole group moves over and becomes
Yep.
a new group
Yep.
that's not the X-Men. They become X-Factor.
Exactly.
That original X-Men group, and like they're completely out of the picture. And that's why it's my favorite era, is because Wolverine and
That's
Storm
why everybody
and
we're
Nightcrawler
like, yeah,
and Colossus
give me
are like
Colossus
70
and stuff.
million
What?
times cooler than any of those fucking assholes that started in the original group. So yeah, that's why I like that era so much, is because
100%.
fucking they're gone entirely. So that I only have them and all their rigid fucking bullshit is like a really unenjoyable aspect of it, but obviously the historical significance of it is driving me through.
All right, I'm joining you through that then, because like obviously,
Okay.
like I said, I'm on my own current run where I'm like probably a little more than a year behind when I think about the current run. But yeah, now looking at this, I'm like, I read obviously all the current stuff, but like there was a gap in there in some of this old stuff where I was like, yeah, let me just jump to the all new, all different. And
I sent you the link, so I want to know, actually, go into your fucking Marvel account and find out exactly what's available. So I want to know if I hit some kind of wall along the way, I want to know what the Marvel subscription could supplement out of what I'm able to find. So definitely look into that and let me know. But yeah, I sent you the link for this.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at
okay,
that's awesome.
So yeah, there's plenty in there to start with and get you going, to say the least. Yeah, I mean, I just downloaded them all basically onto my Google Drive, and I can just pull them from wherever on any fucking device, wherever I'm at. And like I said, they're pretty bite-sized with the ads taken out. We're talking like 24, 25 pages, and they're super big, like 6 panels a page. It's like they're not doing anything creative with the fucking art layout at all early on. So it's super fast and consumable to blow through one. Probably maybe at most 12, 15 minutes to get through an issue, I'm knocking them out as I go to bed pretty much,
Dude, yeah. I told you, I nerded out. That's why you sent me a question. I was just like, I could just go off of forever, like talking about this stuff. It's awesome.
Well, that is its own side quest. Let us discuss Nintendo Power, a different periodical now.
That is a select screen from Mega Man 3. Of course, we all understood that one. Had to include that one to bring,
Banger. I'm always a huge fan of the menu. They're always cranks. Like from a good soundtrack, the menu theme, which I guess makes sense because you're often going to spend like sometime a significant period of time there, so you need something that's not going to be repetitive and shitty. So I get the impetus for that usually being something cool, and you're going to spend some time there too. So yeah, it's not the most illogical thing, but it is a true thing. It tends to be. So this is the March 1991 issue. The US cover price is $3.50. The Canadian one is $4.50. And this is the featured game here is Metal Storm: Battle Tactics for a Reverse Universe is the tagline there. And the artwork is a mech with a laser tag rifle looking like it's about to tip over backwards drunk on 4th of July. That's how I would kind of summate this, I think. There's like fireworks in the background. He's kind of like leaning like this. And I don't know.
That is very fascinating from a I don't even know how to describe that, but essentially from my perspective, I thought it looked like Robotech. Clearly anime.
Yeah, you said that. Day. I don't know what that was. What that was a toy?
It was an anime from back in the day. Like it was a show.
Go. We've already covered this.
Yeah, but I mean, like as a kid, like there was no anime in my mind. It was just a cartoon that came on, which
sure, it's like Voltron. I didn't know Voltron
it was like fighter
anime,
pilots that turned into robots. You know what I mean? So yeah, any of those kind of things. But also a nondescript version. So I'm like, what are we doing here?
Okay. I am not even vaguely familiar with that IP, so yeah, it was no help for me. Yeah, I mean, to me, like, aside from that joke about being drunk on 4th of July, I think this is one of the lamer Nintendo Power covers to date, in my opinion. Like, it's just
Oh, yeah. It's not drawing you in. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. There's no pink. That was a terrible decision.
There's no high octane bringing me in colors.
Yeah, as we've established, that being the best color for Nintendo Power Cover. Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't do much for me. And mechs also is just kind of a world that I'm kind of on. It just doesn't do anything for me.
Unless it's Voltron or something I know. Otherwise, it's kind of like,
that's. I mean, I don't. Yeah, that's. I'm not saying I don't like robots. There's a difference.
Like robots.
To me, this is a mech. A mech is like an exosuit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not the same. Which Voltron kind of is too. It's got like Voltron is kind of debunking every possible.
Voltron, you have the cats coming together.
Yeah, yes. Like, but it's still they're still in it. They're still in it. It's still an exoskeleton. It's just a different. It's not a human form. It's still the same idea in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but it has mystic elements to the cats and how they come together and the powers that brought. Like there's nuance and levels.
There's just more. Each cat comes from different.
Voltron's name.
Each cat comes from a different biome. It is. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Voltron isn't way fucking cooler than wherever you want to place this as an IP. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that at all. It's just funny too. If you really split hairs, the overlap in the Venn diagram is heavy, which is funny. We have some hot reviews here. We have part 2 of our Star Tropics coverage, and we have G.I. Joe. That latter one's pretty exciting to me.
Latter? What about the former? Or are we just going to skip over Star Tropics?
Well, but it's not new, though, and I haven't played far enough into that game for part 2 to be more exciting to me than part 1, so it's just not new. G.I. Joe is new, and also I didn't have any Star Tropics action figures, Jay, so that's also a deficiency. And then last we have Plus! The Nestor Awards call for ballots, and that's exciting. So first up inside is the usual subscribe to this rag spread, and they're still on that fairly wild unmask the power animal in you campaign here, which is a fun, interesting one, I think, as far as those go. The power line leads off with touting those aforementioned Nestor Award ballots herein, the 3rd annual installment of those honors. And I don't know about you, Jay, but I very much look forward to these every year. They come along much more seldom than every year in our actual timeline, the way this works out. But I look forward to them, and we are absolutely doing our own casting of our ballots in addition to taking ballots from Lork Disciples via the internets, and we'll kind of, process that all, aggregate it all into a democratic process of Tanthagel that will lead to some of my favorite infographics that I make for this podcast. So that's pretty fun.
And man, that seems like so much fire in this issue, man. We got that going on. We got Star Tropics, Adventure Island 2, which looks oddly interesting. The aforementioned G.I. Joe.
I didn't think it looked interesting, but I was shocked with how interesting I found it when I got going on it. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's like
there's promise.
This is a weird issue. This is a weird issue.
I was thinking the exact same thing. Literally, before we started this, I was like, this is a weird issue. I had the exact same thought.
Yeah, part of it is, again, I think it just goes a little bit with my own stupid nostalgia stuff. Like, this is only the 2nd issue after my subscription ended, so I never really had any firsthand. It's just a different feel than so much of the issues we've done recently on Nintendo Power side. I just don't have that familiarity with it. And I think I'm kind of somewhat transitioning out of NES. So a lot of the games I don't have. It's getting weird for me in this really emotional way that I can't explain. And that, I think, is playing into my impression of the issue itself. But whatever, we'll work through that emotional baggage later here in the episode. In the rest of this Powerline shit they talk about some of the game headliners like you mentioned, and then there's a special tech spec report for the month where they're going under the hood of the NES and kind of explaining the architecture and hardware there. And then they also touch on the winter CES reporting they do in Packwatch. So we have that to look forward to here. The TOC then carries us into Player's Pulse in the mailbox, and the prompt for these letters was back in issue 18, the November-December issue of 90, so there's a 3-month lag on the turnaround on that. Zoom. They requested tales of power players' most desperate needs was the actual prompt, so all these letters are thematically, or at least the bulk of them are thematically in line with that. And the first is from James Wong in La Mirada, California. And he's spinning yarn about him writing the Mickey Mouse Club, which is amazing in itself. I already
right?
You know my writing in thing with fucking Wolverine. So like, I just, there's like a level of emoting to this, like the drive that you have to have as a small child to decide to do that and then actually carry it out is like a whole fucking emotional roller coaster for me. So I appreciate this letter a great deal. But so he writes into the Mickey Mouse Club with his dream of becoming a Nintendo of America gameplay counselor and asked them to make it happen for him. So I didn't have cable, so I didn't have the Disney Channel, so I didn't know about the Mickey Mouse Club. And what did you have cable? Did you know about this?
I loved the freaking Mickey Mouse Club. But I only had cable.
I know Justin Timberlake and Spears were in it, but that's about the extent of my Mickey Mouse Club knowledge.
I mean, I loved it, but like I only had it from time to time. Like when I was a young kid, only on like free weekends when they would like have a free Disney weekend, and I would watch it immediately on loop. Or when I forgot all about that.
They would do that. They would just they would flip the channel on and try to like we were talking about with the fucking VR.
And sometimes they would accidentally one time
get a little taste and go tell your parents.
2 weeks, and I was like so excited. Like I would watch it a lot, go over my cousin's
especially because there's no way to know that it was happening, so it would just be like a surprise in your life. Like, and that what that leads to is you as a child checking it meticulously, which is awesome and it's funny in its own little way.
Is channel 43 on? Check this weekend. Man. So I would definitely watch it from time to time, and I love that. But like to me, I was sitting here thinking, why did they do it unless they had a kind of like a special segment where they were like, "Let us help your wish come true."
I was going to ask. That's kind of what I was asking more about. That even I guess. Like, was this clearly was a thing that they did with some? If he knew to write in and ask for it. I'm assuming it was this regular segment. So,
but that doesn't.
I was curious whether I was going to ask whether you had ever fucking written in. Basically, is what I was going to ask.
No, okay. I mean, they definitely had write-in sections for stuff, but like that doesn't stick out as like a recurring thing that like jumps out of my mind. But
okay, well,
either way,
James here.
Freaking, are you kidding me?
Amazing. Yeah. What? So he writes in. They fly him out. They sign him up for this. He wins or whatever the fuck that works. Randomly drawn, however they would have done it. And so they fly him out and they line up a Nintendo of America headquarters tour, and they send a camera crew out to cover it. So they document the whole deal with the intent of airing it on the Disney Channel as this segment that they do right for the Mickey Mouse Club show. I'm guessing, and because the internet is beautiful, it is available on the YouTube's to watch. I posted this on our socials this week. The link will be in the show notes, of course. James himself has it. That's where I found it. It's on his YouTube channel, right? So a link to that, like I said, 6 minutes. It's you gotta watch it. It's fucking great. Is in the show notes, and it's really well done. It's like they didn't just like they had like a plan for it. They didn't just send him in there and have a camera crew covering it with no direction. They coordinated with Nintendo in advance and made it like this quest that he had to eventually arrive at the feet of Howard Phillips to ask him this question. So it's like done in this very well thought out kind of narrative through line way, which is fucking really good fucking documentary filmmaking, short format documentary filmmaking. So I respected the shit out of that. But yeah, that's the end goal. And it's specifically about this one game that he must have mentioned as being his favorite game of the time or something he was really into in the Guardian Legend, which I did a kill quest on, and it's a fucking great game, and I can absolutely see why you would have these eternal questions to ask a all-knowing, all-seeing, omnipotent power about. It's not a short, easy game by any length. And so along the way, he's getting shown different parts of the operation, and at one point he kind of goes through the like little cubicle maze where all the counselors are working at their desks and stuff, and he actually meets, and there's an interview sequence with Kim Racy, who, if you can recall our Mullet Counselor Championship playoffs for 90, she was one of the, I think the final four, I believe she made it to. She was the only female counselor featured in any of the things, and she had the mullet. So great. So she talks to Kim, and gets the skinny he's asking her questions about, what it takes to become a counselor, what a day in the life is like, et cetera, et cetera. So he speaks to Kim about that. And I'm pretty sure, like, in the little montage, they show us as he's working his way to her cubicle. I'm pretty sure Order of Erdrick interviewee Greg Lauder gets a little second or two of cameo time in the montage and the other counselors they show. So that was pretty cool. Nice. I did not, however, spot Caesar Filori, unfortunately. But I'm pretty sure Greg was in there, which makes sense. Greg was like a manager to some degree, so I would guess he would have the sway to get himself on this event that they had any control over who got featured. But so he gets that, so he does that. He talks to her, gets kind of the deal with being a counselor and what it takes, the training process for them, yada yada. And then he gets taken to like the training room where they have actual trainees training to become counselors, and it's just this this small room with a bunch of little 13-inch TVs with Nintendo set up, and each one has an NES Advantage in front of it. So I love that like all the counselors they show are also using NES Advantages. So that's like, that's like the premium hardware that all these official people are given. They don't get any bullshit controllers. That's fucking awesome. Except Howie. When they show Howie later, he has his own bullshit arcade stick, which I think we've seen that before in screenshots or magazine photos of him in his little work area or game testing area. He has some kind of like quasi arcade stick with 3 buttons, and it's perfect, exact quintessential Howie that he wouldn't use the standard fucking NES Advantage. He has his own thing, so that makes total sense to me. But so he takes him in this room, and he sits there, and like they explain to him how it's like some however many hours they have to put in these games, and how many games they have to know relatively rote in order to be put on the phones and start taking calls. So he gets to go through all that shit. And then eventually, like when he's in that room, there's this little moment thing that leads him to Howard, and then he goes into Howard's office, and he has a chat with him and talks to Howard and gets to ask his question about Guardian Legend. It's just fucking really well done, really good job. And here's the fucking kicker, dude. Like, it would be a must watch without that, I think. But James Wong, like I said, it's his YouTube account that this video, at least that's where I found it. Right. Maybe it exists elsewhere. But you can see his life now as a result. And he ended up working for Nintendo America as a video editor and producer. So, like, nice. It is just the feel-good story of the year that this kid set a fucking career goal for himself at age 8, did this. The letter had to be good to get him to say yes, so you got to commend him at his performance at age 8, and then he does a good job in this video and whatever. But he was able to, I don't know, I guess I don't know the story between age 8 and, whenever he would have started, but it seems like most of his career has been there. So at a relatively young age, he started at Nintendo. So in those interim, 15, 20 years, he either maintained relationships or whatever it would have been, however he would have done it, and set that goal and achieved it. And I just think that is beyond fucking cool that a kid was able to set that goal at age 8 and achieve it in his 20s, is a really fucking cool, impressive thing, and a really cool aspect of finding that video. So yeah, right. Watch it. It's only 6 minutes. Fucking great. And that is a really cool thing here. So that's the first letter. And I don't know what your takeaway of that was, but none of these other kids have a hope of taking the cake from him. Right? Like, it's just not even fucking close. James, I don't know. That's not desperate. Like, that's the whole theme of, like, give us your most desperate stories. I mean, yeah, he was desperate to become a counselor at age 8, but I don't think that's desperate. I think that's empowered, right. Not desperate. So I think that one, that's probably, I guess, why it fits outside the box of these other ones that are kind of like little tiny, much more trivial, desperate moments. We have one where the kid is trying to convince every family member he has, one by one, to buy him Super Mario Brothers 3 right. with like these veiled, opaque.
He was way too like nondescript about it. Like, you got to be direct.
Yeah, and too indirect. Yeah, he was definitely no James. He was definitely no go out and take his piece of the pie. No, kid for sure. So yeah, there's that one. And I think this is probably my favorite of the lesser ones. Is the one where he's bartering and eventually pays a overpays in baseball cards
right.
for a copy of Super Mario Brothers 2 because he had like, I just love the specificity of it. He mentions that he specifically saved $54 via allowances and whatever. So that's how much money he had. And he went around to a bunch of stores and couldn't find it for that price, which in its own way is alluding to the chip shortage, I think, that he couldn't find a copy of Super Mario Brothers 2. And if he did, it was too expensive. So I think there's that cool historical aspect of this, if you know the story. But he then explains how the kid that he was like calling all his friends and like trying to broker a deal, you know? And he explains that he ends up overpaying at one point or another. The best deal he could get was $132 in baseball cards. And he specifically says 132. Dude. To me, that specificity, no question, means that was that month's listing of those 7 cards in Beckett.
Oh, 100%.
That's 2
100%.
kids over an issue of Beckett cutting a fucking deal. And that is an amazing mental image, you know? So I fucking
like,
love
hey,
that,
I got the bet. This is the Beckett December 92. This is what we're going by.
Yeah. Eric Davis is on the cover.
Do we agree? Do we agree that's what we're going by? Okay, then that's the price. That's the price here.
Yeah. That you'll probably find that funny. The issue, when I think of Beckett on the baseball side, I had a million of the football one because I was way more into football cards for a longer period of time. But the issue of Beckett that I think of when I think of my baseball Beckett's it's probably like a 1989 issue with Eric Davis on the cover from the Reds. So I thought,
okay, nice. Very nice.
He was like, a catcher, I believe. I think he was a catcher. Was he? Maybe not. He's definitely not in catcher garb when I think of him, so maybe he's not. Maybe an outfielder or something. Okay. Whatever the case. And the last one is kind of funny. He talks about having to have committed to play an instrument at his mom's request, to play an instrument he fucking hates. He says it right in the letter. He fucking hates it. The cello in the school orchestra to get his hands on a copy of TMNT for the Game Boy was the deal he cut with his mom. If he played the cello, she would buy him TMNT too. And he said how he has the game now and he loves that, but he hates how it's like an ongoing punishment.
I still hate playing the cello.
That's fucking great. So definitely one of the better letter things, I think, in a while. There's a lot of fun stuff in there. That was pretty cool. There's 2 rando letters falling outside the purview of the prompt after that. The first is from Courtney Lewis in Woodbury, New York, and she made a Game Boy for a pop art project at school that stands over 4 feet tall, and it shows a picture of her next to it there in the mag, and I don't know, the dimensions look a little goofy, Court, but I suppose pretty good job nonetheless. It's not, it does look like a Game Boy, it just looks like a goofy proportions version of one.
Goofy for the A and B. It's the A and B buttons. They're too small.
Yeah, they're super small relative to the rest of the thing.
Otherwise, good job.
And it's also wider. The width relative to the height is also askew. And what it honestly looks more to me like, a buddy of mine actually just got one. There's I think it's the same company that makes mine. Abernick has a line of emulators that look like a Game Boy, but like this, like it's wider. And just a little goofy looking, and it looks a lot more like that than an actual Game Boy to me.
Oh my gosh.
She's probably 9, so whatever. Fucking not bad. And then there's a few cats in Rome NY, New York, that also wrote a Nintendo rap they wanted to share.
Oh my gosh.
And our resident rapper, Jab, isn't on this ep, but I don't want to deprive the listeners of his return to the mic, so I requested that he lay down the track for us, and in his customary cunty Jab way, he has taken his sweet time in making that a reality, but I hope to have it here. He claims he'll have it by end of day tomorrow, Sunday. We're recording this on the 17th, so perhaps I'll just hold this episode till Monday, even if I get edited in advance of that, and we can include that here in the recording. Either way, it'll get disseminated in one way, shape, or form.
Oh my gosh.
Here on the podcast, and I very much look forward to that. It's his second NES rap for the pod. If you're a long-time, seasoned veteran listener, you might recall it was a main quest app from the first, it might even have been one of the newsletters, one of the Nintendo Fun Club newses that had a rap in it that someone had sent in, and I didn't even think to ask him in that case. We're just recording, and he's like, oh, I used to rap, I should do this, and I was like, yes, Jab, you fucking should. I forgot. I'll make him.
He said I used to rap.
Oh, he does. There's a website for the group that he was in that's still up. I included in the show notes way back when. It's probably still there. I'll jump in the group chat when we finish here, and I'll have him send the link again because I'm pretty sure it still exists. And yeah, they're called they were a funny ass name. Oberlin something. It's fucking something funny.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's to be honest with you,
that's great.
And I'll talk shit about Jab at the drop of a dime. It's not terrible. It actually sounds. It does
Get
not
out of here,
sound.
man.
It does not. I mean, it's not fucking Eminem or anything, but it's not bad for what I'm almost sure. In fact, I know actually that it's 2 or 3 white boys. It's him, one of the Carlson boys, and
one of the Carlson boys like somebody.
Yeah, exactly. They are, and the Carlson family is the whitest family on the planet, by the way. Yeah. So I'll have him send that link for your own amusement, but. I am going to have him do this rap for sure. But yeah, when he did the rap from the issue, the rap is terrible because it's written by a child, but his performance of it was not that bad. But if you want to dig back through the annals of the ISOH podcast, that is in there somewhere early on in that first Jab year.
Oh man.
Where he just fucking breaks into rap out of nowhere. And I was like, I wouldn't even have thought to ask you that, but fuck yes, go! And he fucking did it right there on the spot. That's why I'm pissed off it's taking him so long. It's because he fucking just broke it into on the spot and did an okay job last time. Hurry the fuck up, bitch.
Now there's pressure and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's great.
So that's fun, I guess. And then lastly here in the Player's Pulse is the video Spotlight. And it's some kid, Zach Pryor, who did in the regional NYC Nintendo World Championship Power Fest Finals in Milwaukee and Atlanta. So both, which sounds like rich kid shit to me, that he went to both. And right. Based on the story, I think that kind of supports it. But they also list, more interestingly to me, they list the finals champs for each age bracket. So there were 3 brackets, 11 and under, 12 to 17, and then 18 plus. And the 11 under winner was Jeff Hansen. I didn't think to look these people up and try to find. Maybe I did, actually, and I couldn't find anything. I don't know. But anyways, the 11 and under champion was Jeff Hansen. The 12 to 17 was Thor Ackerland, which is quite a name. And 18 plus was Robert Whiteman. And it's funny to me, like the 18-year-old sounds like an adult. Robert Whiteman. Right. So that was amusing to me. But that's it for Player's Pulse. We then rip right into it with a 12-banger on the cover feature. Tamtex developed, Irem released Metal Storm.
Man.
And we've talked about this a little bit last time, and I played it then, so this is not necessarily new content, but it's certainly more expansive content on that particular game. And the feature here, Jay, straight up gave me an epileptic seizure when I first opened it. It is the most busy fucking Nintendo Power layout we've ever had. It looks like a fucking...
There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, it's like...
A lot.
Yeah, terrible background choices. It's just like the colors are fucking bananas, man. So yeah, it's not a very pretty layout, despite being, obviously, at 12 pages, quite expansive. They do, on the upside with this, start shit off the right way with some fucking schematics, and I'm a big fan of those. Yes, tell me about where I can find all the information on the sensor array, the night vision scope, the access hatch, and the anti-gravity unit. Tell me all that shit. And then they also here explain the gravity reversal capabilities of the mech suit, which is, I think, the one thing about this game that is super unique and cool, and I do kind of like. I don't think I'll get into it, but this game on the overall, I just, something about it is missing or lacking to me. But that mechanic of and the execution of it also, not just the idea of it, I think is quite good. So
yeah,
that going for it.
Yeah, the flipping back and forth and how you use that to get past certain levels, enemies, stuff was unique. Like I see the potential there. Like I only got 1 power up, and so I was kind of frustrated at first. I'm like, when am I going to get a power up? And I like the fact that this issue, it tells you, like in the second page of the spread, breakdown. It tells you, at least it gives you hope. Like, oh, I can the
crusher, this rare and valuable item will crush every enemy in sight. Right, that sounds amazing.
Right, exactly. Like, so because I played it for a while, and I originally paused and wrote down in my notes like, I haven't got any power ups. Like, this sucks. What's happening? So I went back and like read the spread more. I'm like, okay, so I played a little longer than I got one. So I'm like, all right, I could see it, but like, like, are the other stuff hidden? Is it just, do I just need to play longer to get them?
Right.
I don't know. The second level is tough. I played through and got to the second level. The second level was tough.
Yeah, same for me. I played through the first level, got to it, started the second, and got, I don't know, a few screens into it and died, ran out of lives. And yeah, I was, kind of surprised with how much, I mean, even I died in the first one. Yeah. It was more than would, I feel like, at my level of Nintendo prowess, that it should be occurring in the first level of the game, so it's definitely a tough one. That's kind of, I think that's in Irem's DNA. I think Irem makes tough games, a lot of shooters and stuff. So, I think that's kind of how they do it. So maybe that's not surprising or shouldn't be surprising, but it is relative to the overall library a little jarring to have a first stage where you're dying a handful of times,
Yeah.
Yep, the Game Pack data box is here. It's a 1 megabit program memory and 2 megabit character memory card with an MMC3 chip. It's a 1-player joint, no multi, with a password save. No battery backup. And the power meter is a 74.5 aggregate. It's all high 3s, 3.7s, or 3.8s. So, that's not bad.
Yeah.
But it's not off the charts.
It's not great,
yeah, it's not up in the Castlevania fucking Mega Man ranges or anything.
Yeah. If you rented this for me, I'll play it. I'm definitely coming home from school and playing it. I'm enjoying it. Thanks, Mom. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
I had played it last time, and that was fresh enough in my memory that, like, as I'm sitting here reading the mag, I was kind of like, I don't think I need to play that again. Yeah. Like, I just didn't have an urge to do so. So, like, that is kind of not good. I don't think, and I mean, I don't know if we should be, if that's the sentiment I have from my literally first time ever playing it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it belongs in the court of opinion of King Lurk as far as, like, considering it for a game app.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like, I'm like later in the read through this issue, and, you see this again when we get to the fucking now playing and you get all the scores again and stuff, and I was like, is it fucked up that I'm not even playing the cover feature of the issue? Like, I gotta play that. So I did end up playing it eventually, but again, just the sentiment of not having an inclination to, when I first encountered it, was like a icky feeling to me that I felt that way, you know what I mean? So,
and they had so many pages of this, so many pages covering this. Like, well, I actually like,
that's the magazine entirely is like, I don't know how much I like these. Like, it's all, there's only like 3 or 4 of them, and they're all like 10 to 20 page bangers, as opposed to more features that are shorter on more games. I don't know if I like this change
exactly
as much.
It threw me off. It actually made me pause and go back and feel like I needed to play more of the game, because I was like, whoa, they spent so much time. Do I need to spend more time playing the game? Like, did I not experience it?
That warring emotional battle it's weird. Has there been, I was trying to think about this before we jumped on, like, has there been another cover feature for Nintendo Power that in any way, shape, or form was even, I guess, actually, you know what? I just thought of one. Track and Field 2 sucked.
Was that on the cover?
Yeah, that was on the cover of, like, issue first year.
One of the first issue ones.
Yeah, it might have been the first year before you jumped on. But yeah, it was like issue 3 or 4 or something. It might have been right after that Castlevania issue.
That's fair enough, because, like, unless you got the power pad natively, like, why?
And you keep doing that. That's not a different game. That's not Track and Field.
Why do I always do that? Every time.
You always do that, yeah. No, it's not world-class track meet. That's actually fun.
Yes.
Track and Field 2 is a bunch of mini games where you just hit buttons, fucking mash buttons, and it sucks. It's a fucking suck game. It looks great, which is how it got, early Konami game that looked beautiful, and that's why I imagine it got on the cover, but it's not fun at all. But yeah, that's, again, I couldn't even think, I guess that's how it would work. The game that you fucking didn't enjoy, it'd be the one you wouldn't be able to think of it when you're just in passing, trying to fucking remember which one sucked on covers. But anyway, yeah, there's not a lot of them, and outside of that, I don't think there is one. So, of 22 issues here, 2 of them are in that category is an extra, I don't know, thing. Like, how did this get on the cover? Who did Irem pay to get this on the cover? Is kind of, I guess, what
I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe back then you didn't know what kind of mechanics and stuff would jump out. I don't know.
I mean, that's the one argument for it, is that that mechanic is different and cool. So that is 100% probably the argument. If someone over in the fucking, if Howie's going to make an argument for why this is here, that's probably where he's leaning to do it. But yeah, it just something about it is missing and matte to me. And
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. You show me a giant robot on the cover like that and all that, and I get a little tiny robot sprite. Like, it just doesn't even jump on the ceiling. Like, I don't know. Like, it's not the same vibe to me. You know, I got Gundam vibes, and I got like just a robot, pretty much just regular exosuit, not Voltron, like 100 feet high. Like, I just got like Jerry with a backpack robot suit
with a power armor
and a gun. Yeah, exactly.
Power armor.
Exactly.
Yeah, didn't do it for me either. So, yeah, I know it sounds like maybe we won't be hearing about that here in the debate section later on. But never know until you get there. Howard and Esther is coming at us fast and loose next, and we are in a Star Tropics game verse this time around. And, Jay, I'm asking this without the slightest hint of, I don't know, facetiousness or whatever, but are they making dick-sucking innuendo jokes in this fucking comic? Okay, so in the first section here, we have the one guy saying to, I believe it's Howie, he says, "For subs, you should see my wife. She's a sub expert, a sub genius. What she can do with the sub, you wouldn't believe." And he's talking about dicks there, and I'll hear nothing to suggest otherwise. And then Howie, alone, after hearing this from this dude, Howie sets off alone to find his wife and go to his house, right? So he goes to the house and meets the wife alone without the guy going with him. And he opens with, when she opens the door, he says, "Pardon me, but your husband said you're a sub-expert." And then her reply is, "Come judge for yourself." And she's suggesting to just come inside. So, like, I don't know, man. Like, they do go inside and then justify it visually with that huge Subway party
submarine sandwich. Yeah, like, right. What are you talking? Get your mind out of the gutter. Like, what are
you could do that, but to spend half the comic with all those innuendo tier dialogue without paying that off until the midpoint, to me, like, we know what you're doing here. We absolutely know what you're doing here to me. And actually, it doesn't even stop there. They just keep this running, even after they show the sub. It keeps going. Howie says, "Actually, I'm looking for a way to make my submarine go underwater." And she says, "I see. Well, you could eat my sandwich and then go on board." Like, get out of here, man. These are sexual innuendos. Get the fuck out of here.
She made a sandwich. What else? She doesn't want it to go to waste.
No.
Get your sandwich.
The whole time that sexcapade is going on. No. The whole time that sexcapade is going on, they occasionally cut to Nestor being a dildo to, like, take your mind off of it. But who cares about that? It's all about that fucking sexually suggestive sequence going on in the Howard side of it, for sure. Yes, I don't know. It was overwhelmingly so to me. You cannot convince me otherwise. But that's what was going on there. I'm sorry. This is a kids mag, Jack. Get the fucking get out of here. So then part 2 of Star Tropics coverage logically follows that, and this is an epic 20 banger in of itself.
They have ninja monkeys as enemies. Why are we not playing this game right now? Like, what? Oh, I need to go turn it back on. I need to go turn it back on to find Uncle Jay.
Side quests are a slow plotting process. Yeah. You have to take one at a time, take your time, and get there. Okay, we'll get there someday. Don't worry. Yeah. So yeah, it's 20 banger.
Look at this.
And,
look at this artwork. This is great.
I can't
telling me all kind of stuff.
The artwork is cool. Actually, the first artwork is super weird. The fucking kid Mikey jamming the fucking bananas in his ears. I don't know what's going on there exactly, but other than that weird ass thing, I couldn't really. Like, I started looking at the pages and I was like, I can't look at this. This is crazy. Like, it's spoiler. It's like I've never gotten to this part in any of my like dabbles, so this is all just spoiler city to me. So I, like, after seeing that artwork and then getting into the first few little moments, I was like, why am I looking at this? No. And fucking move to table. Moving on is my vote, because I don't think we should be consuming this information until we actually play the game.
Fine,
but
Josh.
This does it does between this, I mean, it's 20 banger, and I can't remember how many pages were in the last issue, but we got probably at least 35 pages of coverage. Yeah. So I don't know if it goes. It probably doesn't go to the end, knowing how they do these, but it's probably pretty close. And I think we basically have like a full side quest strategy guide tier amount of literature and antiquity to work with.
Yeah,
so that's
are you kidding me? Yeah.
But as far as reading it right now, bad plan. That is the Star Tropics dungeon theme. Getting us rolling into the burger, the Nintendo Power Sammy here. And the classified info feature leads us off. They know what keeps them coming back, Jay. Infographics.
Oh, yeah. And Mega Man 3? Come on now.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I love the focus here. Love it.
Yep. So Agent 414 is starting this off with the same chart we got for Mega Man 2 just an issue or two ago.
Hmm.
And this is where, like, kind of the matrix of where the weapons, they're on the y-axis and the robot bosses are on the x, and then they have that divisible by 7 damage data therein. And there's a cool caveat blurb at the bottom pointing out that while the chart indicates the raw strength of a given weapon versus a given robot, it does not explain how easy or difficult that weapon might be to employ in a certain boss battle situation. Yeah. And that, Lord Disciple, is a key life lesson about analytics. You have to be attuned enough to read the story behind the numbers, not just spout raw data when trying to make a point. So that is a nice little life lesson for the kids there, I think, that they put in.
One also thing, note about this also doesn't take into account the fact that the Metal Man weapon is something that you want to get immediately because it's multi-directional and you can use it everywhere. So just like in terms of just getting through the stages, yeah, you want to target Metal Man.
Okay. Well, yeah. I don't think I have... We had to have talked about it with the feature. I mean, I always do this with Mega Man, where you give us your spiel for the order of which to attack them, or take them on, rather. So I'm sure we've already done that.
Yes.
I want to go back to the Mega Man 3 issue. What was it? That'd be 2 issues back, I think. Agent 067 has a couple high-concept cheeses for the game also. The first is some shit about a super jump that requires hitting shit on both controllers to execute, which I'm always like, get the fuck out of here.
Right? Like, that is some extra... Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, they want you to hold right on the D-pad of controller 2 and then hit A to jump on controller 1, and you jump almost the entire height of the screen when you do this. And you can use this jump to get you out of pits that you might be falling into or have fallen into.
What? But how are you going to... You're just going to have the other controller like next to you just in case ready you try something wild? Or like what's going on?
Right, yeah, I guess.
Or you have your little brother hold your controller?
Yeah, running dummy fucking duty. Like just... whenever I say it, just sit there the whole time and spend your life doing this thing that I need you to... I would have told... If I didn't known about this and had Mega Man 3, I 100% would have made Jab do this, for sure.
We're playing together. Just look, this is your part. Yeah. Like, you help me when I fall. Like, that's
you're back at the base. You're back at Dr. Wily's castle. Ready to hit the button when called upon as a support character.
You're the guy in the chair. You're the guy in the chair.
Yeah, sit there with your greasy ass potato chip fingers and fucking do what I say now. Shut up.
Come on, Josh. I'm trying to give him a little motivation. You're like, just do this.
We each have our different management tactics or styles. Jay, I don't think either one of us should be berated for whatever our chosen route is. Different strokes for different folks, Jay. That's how that goes. Yeah. But the interesting thing about this jumping deal is it's a game breaker because when you it's not supposed to be like just a normal part of the gameplay, because when you do this, the music stops in whatever level you're in until you reach a new area where a new and different soundtrack would start, or tune would start. Which, given how fire this soundtrack is, I frankly think this is it's not a fair trade off. So I'll pass.
Don't fall in the hole.
Yeah, much better choice. And the second of these is also pretty cheese-ish. You can glitch the Rush Jet into your inventory without... I guess you need to have beaten Shadow Man, and you get his weapon, and the Rush Marine is how you circumvent this. as opposed to it says in there, I didn't write down, it says in there whichever boss you get the Rush Jet from, you don't have to do that. You can go to Shadow Man, you beat him, you get his weapon, you get the Rush Marine, and then in any other stage after that, you can go to your weapon selection subscreen, and you want to do this when you're near a weapon power-up of some kind, so like the blue pill, small or large, I think is fine. But you go to the subscreen, and then you select the Shadow Blade. Now that you, like I said, you have to have beaten Shadow Man to have in your inventory. So you select that, and then you hold right on your controller, and Rush will appear in the upper left of the sub-screen. So you'll see this happen. You'll get a visual cue. And then you unpause with that still present without having let go of right, I guess, on the D-pad. And then when you collect the power-up, it will act like you're powering up the Rush Jet. And you will now have it to use at will, which is that's interesting for sure.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So interesting little workaround for Mega Man 3, and then Agent 234 gives us the Cowabunga correction for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game, and this is providing the correct Start with 9 Lives code that they errantly printed back in a few, when they did the feature of it. They had the 9 Lives code, and then we even had the letter where the kid wrote in and said, or no, maybe I saw that on Reddit, or someone wrote us.
No, somebody definitely corrected.
Yeah. Well, it was, again, but I don't think it was in the, I don't know if it was in the mag. Whatever the case, it was in the magazine. You're right. It was in the Player's Pulse deal. But they errantly printed it with the wrong code, and here is the correction. Although they don't specifically mention it as a retraction, they mention it as just like, here's the code. They don't mention how they fucked up previously. So
yeah, they felt it was important to put it here, like in the official place.
Yeah, but I just feel like it's an irresponsible. Not accepting blame situation that, especially in a position of authority as Nintendo Power is in this case. I think that's, I don't know.
They're like, hey man, it's not our code. We didn't get it. They told us I don't know what to tell you.
Not our fault, man. We're just
giving you the good stuff.
Don't shoot the messenger, bro.
Yeah.
And then Agent 989 has some intel on ISOH Game App alum Shadow of the Ninja, and this is talking about, it's couple things here. They have one instance where they're talking about a lightning bolt attack that you can summon by pressing, or rather holding the B button for 5 seconds, and then when you let go, it murks everything on screen, but saps half of your energy. And I don't recall using this. Do you recall using this? I feel like it's something that should be in the instruction manual, basically, but I don't recall using it. I don't know.
I don't remember now. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Been a while on that game app.
Yeah.
And then the other one here is they're highlighting some hidden items you can score in a few places in game. They have screenshots of where you find those. So
fun,
high level power ups that you might miss because they're hidden. So I'm always. This is one of the many dumb data ongoing analysis things that I'm doing, and I build my spreadsheets with as I go through Nintendo Powers. But I have this working list of trying to get to the bottom of what the agent numbers mean and whether they're just arbitrary or whether there's actually connective tissue between one particular agent number appearing in one issue and another. Is it the same person? Whatever. So that's been ongoing for a while, and it means something to me, but I still haven't figured out what. But Agents 414 and 067, the two lead-off Mega Man 3 entries, are definitely accomplished contributors. So I firmly believe they don't just put random numbers in here.
So you've seen them. They're right. Recurring. Okay.
Yes, and that's all on the ISOH Google Drive. The link's in the show notes. So if you want to go in there and crunch the numbers yourself and then present hypotheses as to what they might mean, I'm all ears, and I would love to hear the exact science behind it. But I haven't cracked the code, but I do see some patterns emerging. There's definitely been repeat input from certain agent numbers for a particular game, and I've even started tracking what the codes are, so like originally I started the document and it was just like agent number, game, and the Nintendo Power it appeared in. Now I've added another column where I'm putting the title of the code, so I'm trying to see if Agent 067 only sends in fucking codes for the music select screen or something. You know, like trying to figure out if there's like a
specialty or something.
A genre. Yeah, a specialty. Right, exactly. So, yeah. The
Interesting.
Fucking high level.
That's some high level nerdery right there.
Yeah, the ISO HQ. Yeah, I'm fucking over here really crunching the numbers. So back to some feature action after that. A not short 8-banger on Hudson Soft's Adventure Island 2. Master Higgins again comes screaming at us across the Nintendo Sega membrane to grace us with his presence for an island-based shit show here. And there is no hope of topping Best on the System Wonder Boy 3 on the Master System with any of these games, of course. But Moby Games' ranking for this second installment on the NES had me kind of optimistic. I fucking hated that first game with a passion. It was just like the most basic bitch trash side-scrolling action platformer ever, so I did not care for it at all. But the score on Moby Games, I think, was like a 7-1 or something, which is it's pretty good. You don't get into the 8s very often on Moby Games. Some of the like really elite ones, you know, Super Mario Bros. 3 and shit might get up higher than that, but 7s is pretty good on Moby Games, is my point. And then on the power meter here, I get the 69.5. That's a little less promising. Sub 70 is not always the greatest fucking indicator with those, but it's a 1M by 2M cart. So 1 megabit program data, 2 megabit character data, MMC3, and then it's got 64K of work RAM as well, which is semi-unordinary. Not a lot of work RAM designations in those data boxes, so there's a little extra juice with which to process shit. And this dropped stateside in February, so it's Game App eligible. And it kind of seemed like I got going on this, and to me, it was screaming that I got Super Mario Bros. 3, basically. Like, they've taken it from just this non-stop side-scrolling action jargon and given you some story and an overworld map, and there's even allusions in the feature that there's some randomization in the paths that the game will send you down from one playthrough to the next. So that's interesting from a replayability perspective. You know, even Super Mario Bros. 3 doesn't have that where you obviously have the choice of different paths, but it doesn't just...
But you still have the 8 worlds that you're going to.
Right. And there's an overworld map, and you're moving through it, and then each little stop on the overworld map takes you into a side-scrolling situation. So the format is wildly similar.
Yeah, I think. For sure. I noticed that as well. It was very colorful. I liked the sound. I was having an okay time. Like, there was more power-ups and enemies. Like, things that I was expecting.
Yeah, what they introduced. I mean, it got me. You know, I fired it up, and like in that very first level, they immediately give you the same hammer and then a skateboard. And that's why I hated that about the first game. Is like your high level power up is that skateboard that just makes the game shitty and harder. You know what I mean? Like, I hate where you just put a guy on skates basically and like have
I never used that. Like briefly.
Exactly. I got it and I was like, oh fuck. But again, the shit of that is the reason that sucks is if that is your cool power up, the idea that you don't want the cool power up is a terrible thing, I think. And a game that's already kind of basic and boring. It's a side-scrolling action platformer, not my genre. So the idea that like the best case format for that kind of game or this for the game isn't desirable was a really, really icky thing about the first one to me. But this one, they bring a lot of the shit from Wonder Boy 3 to me into this, in that you immediately, after I lost the skateboard and I was like, oh, thank God. And then immediately the next power up was this lizard that you jump on the back of.
That was way better.
Yeah, and it looks exactly like the lizard that was one of the forms in Wonder Boy 3. So that was like a cool connective tissue thing about a game I actually do like, that I was happy to that they introduced. And I didn't get far enough in the game to get a different form, but I see him riding in the image you have on the back of like a fucking platypus thing or something. So, or a dinosaur, swimming dinosaur or something. So I'm guessing there's a bunch of different animal forms to ride and use the powers of, because this lizard does it like spit a certain kind of thing out and like had basically different powers that changed the way you engage the game and made it more fun. So if that is something that in different ways manifests itself throughout the play, I think it's even better than maybe what I experienced, which is cool to know and see. So that was, I was shocked that I thought for sure I was like, I'm going to fucking hate this.
Yeah, no, I was having an okay time. I even picked up some different power-up things, like, without being riding on something that just did different stuff. So I was like, wow, this is more involved than I expected.
Yeah, a lot more going on. Yeah, man. Yeah, I was pretty fucking satisfied. Yeah, you like, you sail over. It starts on the world map, and you kind of sail in on this raft, and then you like hop off the island. So yeah, it was just like there's just more of a story, efforts towards the story, which I always appreciate. Over just kind of mindless action. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. I played 3 stages of the shit, and
that was nice.
I didn't want to. Miyagi was due for a walk, and I didn't want to take him out. I wanted to keep playing when I did stop. So I thought that was interesting. That I was literally like questioning, like, am I just in a weird mood, or is this actually good?
Yeah, I played. I think 2 stages, and then I stopped. I think.
Okay, but
I saw. Because, like, I randomly died, and I can't remember, like, it was a timer thing. I can't remember why I died, but then I was like, all right, I just need to stop anyway, and, like, it's cool. We'll make that the natural stopping point. But yeah, pretty fucking engaging. And, yeah, the game feature suggests there's 8 worlds to go through. Very SMB 3 there, too. But, yeah, I think there's definitely a game here, and that's fascinating.
Cool. Yeah. So some of that Adventure Island coverage makes up the back of the month's trifold poster, just part of those 8 maps that they feature in there. On the front side of it, the part that you would want to hang on your bedroom wall with some sticky tack is featuring Battletoads. Yes. And it's the 3 toads beating up some adversary rats, WWF wrestling style, which is pretty cool, bro. And this doesn't hit till June, so we're not talking about the game here, but they are... The idea that they're kind of teasing it this far out, and we'll see more of this later, how he's fucking just jamming on it this whole issue, actually, if you open your eyes. He's talking about it a lot here, and we see a lot of coverage for it. So I guess at CES, there was a booth. TradeWest had a booth that allowed you to play it. So yeah, he's super fucking hot on it, and this much of that's 3 months, dude. I mean, we're in March with this issue, so you don't see 3-month lead-ups for anything, So that's a pretty huge...
They tease this, they tease Street Fighter. It's like, what? It starts to get that hype train deal where when you start paying attention and reading these issues, you start to understand like what's coming down the pipe, which is as we've talked about, something that got me hype always. Always. Word.
There's 9 pages of Game Boy coverage that comes at us after that. There's features on Operation C and Boy and His Blob. Yeah. There's the classified info. There's Now Playing. There's the top 10. This is always kind of fun to look at. So rounding that out, we have Super Mario Land, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Final Fantasy, Dr. Mario, and Gargoyle's Quest on the front half. And the back half is Tetris, Castlevania, Batman, Play Action Football, and Golf. So...
Can't argue with that. I mean, Super Mario Land, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, yeah. Come on.
Most of it.
Dr. Mario.
Golf's a little goofy to me to be there, but other than that, I think all of those probably belong, yeah.
That's random. But I feel like there's always one that you're like, somebody likes. There's a game for everybody.
Yeah, we're gonna get to it later in the fucking... The nominations for Game Boy are... I don't know. They're on some of those. Fucking, there's some serious omissions and some game like the Korth, Quack, all those fucking, I don't know. I mean, I guess those are all probably puzzlers, and maybe they're okay. I don't know, but again, when you're talking about Game of the Year, like
it's also timeline based. Like maybe a lot of hot stuff wasn't out yet.
The Game Boy was kind of new. That is true. They probably didn't have a ton to choose from, but I know Batman's on that list, and Batman's better than Quark, Quicks, or fucking any of those Q fucking games. So.
Kicks is good though, man.
It is good. I know it's a good game. I know. But again, it's not Game of the Year. Like no, like those little dicky puzzler ports from like 1983.
It could be also one of those random things where it's like Batman came out like a month ago, and Kicks is now sold because it came out 9 months ago, like 1 million copies, and this is sold 50,000. I don't know.
Okay,
Jay. I'm trying to justify it because I have no idea because it doesn't make sense to your point. Like, yeah, Batman was a freaking great game. Why wouldn't it be?
I don't even think Batman is that great on the Game Boy side, but it is more fun and engaging than fucking like a little puzzler, just as far as how much time you're going to spend playing it, and obviously the excitement of playing it. It's a Batman game. Whatever. That's enough Game Boy. This podcast is not about Game Boy. It's about NES. And the next thing about the NES is the inside story on the hardware of it. And building a robot my whole childhood ass would have fucking loved this breakdown of this machine that I love so much, man. It's like fucking like a very, they show it taken apart in like the inner workings of the fucking mainframe, man. It's like fucking, they really go and show you all the bits and bobs, and that's fucking pretty fun. So there's 3 pages of that, and then they also toss in a look at the ripped apart Game Boy, which is also cool to see that dismantled, So it closes out like that's, it's all kind of straightforward. There was nothing really like that. The one where they talked about the processing flowchart of the NES was way more interesting, I think, than just kind of explaining the hardware. Because they don't really even explain it necessarily. They kind of just show it and then again kind of reiterate how it works. And it just, I felt like it wasn't, I don't know. They didn't get to the kernel of what this could have been, I think, is maybe my complaint here. But
yeah, it didn't do it really for me. Like, but also, I'm a little biased working in the industry. Like, I kind of understand the move away from like some of these kind of things. Potentially also where we're at right now. It's kind of just like, okay.
Okay. Well, I was building a robot in 1990, Jay, and I was very interested in these particular mechanical inner workings, these devices. I was taking apart many of them and stockpiling the dismantled parts in my closet, and I never got around to the actual robot. But this would have been, this could have led me. This could have been the thing. If I'd had this issue, maybe that would have been the thing that could have got me over the hump on building my own robot, circa 1991. We'll never know. So it closes out with a look at the SNES's CPU chip, and they explain this. This is kind of interesting. They explain the nuts and bolts of the massive exponential uptick in processing capability, going from 256 to 65,536.
And that would be what I would retain. I would read this, obviously, because I would still read this whole thing, and then I'd be like, what? That's so many more. Yeah,
that's so many more colors displayed, even though it means like has no, or like it's totally arbitrary. Yeah, for sure. They also explain what amounts to the old adage of it ain't about the X's and O's, it's about the Jimmies and Joes. And that's i.e. software programmers are what will make the new system cool, not the computer chip inside of the device. And amen to artistry. I agree. Our last mega feature comes next, and it is on Kid Corp developed, Taxan released G.I. Joe, a real American hero!
Man.
I never even heard of this developer, Kid Corp, so I was kind of like,
man,
that's interesting. They've done some fucking bangers, though, on the system for sure. They did River City Ransom, they did Double Dragon 2, maybe most notably, so that's, kind of honored company, I think. So that's a good indicator of what this game could be, so that's cool. And Yo Joe, the G.I. Joe team hits the warpath with more firepower and more fighting skills than any force that has ever dropped behind enemy lines. The Cobra organization has bases spread out all over the world, and your team must get in, blow each base to Kingdom Come, and that's the exact verbiage, Kingdom Come, I love that.
Oh, yeah.
And then escape. Taxan has combined great control and graphics for a winner. And the data box bits call it a 1M by 2M cart with an MC3 chip and 64K of work RAM. So exact same thing as Adventure Island, basically. And then the power meter action averages out to a 72%, all categories hovering around the 3.6 range. So not a bad score there. And the feature in the mag takes us through all 6 missions, preceding the big boss battle with Cobra Commander, and what I believe are full screenshot maps of all of them. And the illustration artwork here is all ripped straight from the action figure line's packaging, so it is fucking hot! It is like the exact illustrations that are on the action figures boxes and the vehicle boxes and shit. So fucking awesome there. They didn't dumb that down or water it down.
Try to do something of their own and make it look whack. Yeah, no. Yep. You're not gonna mess up a good thing. Just
not like fucking G.I. Joe, for Christ's sake. I mean, this is 91. I didn't really get into G.I. Joes until a little bit later. I've kind of talked about this before. Almost, I didn't even really, I was just like, it was like a weird, I was too old to really, I mean, I did still play with them, kind of, I guess, but it was much less about playing with them and more just about collecting them in this weird intermediary preteen, early teen phase, maybe probably preteen. I don't think I would have been in high school quite yet, but
yeah,
definitely later, probably than a lot of kids were fucking around with G.I. Joes in our age bracket, basically. So it mentions at the end that there is both a second and third trip to the game that you can play if you just can't get enough of the shit. The second quest only gives you 2 team members instead of the 3 that you get in the initial playthrough. And the third iteration, if you beat it the second time, has hidden checkpoints. And I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm sure it ups the difficulty in some way, shape, or form. So that was pretty interesting that they like dedicated that much effort to creating replayability with it. You know,
that's impressive.
Yeah, so I mean, I played this recently too. So in a different way, I did not play it when I was going through the mag because I would definitely play this for a game app, and I just know that. You know,
you just know that.
Yeah, even though I didn't want to play, or it wasn't that I didn't want to. I was just like, I don't need to. I know that this is great, and I would like to do a game episode on it. So, do you not agree? Did you fucking? I mean, you fucked with it, I'm sure. Yeah?
I low-key had fun playing this game. I had to make sure this was the right game because I feel like I played a different G.I. Joe game in the past that was not right. So I was like, that was whatever. So I like double-check. I'm like, yeah, this is the game.
There's a few of them on NES, and they're all kind of, they're exactly the same.
But like I knew like one was definitely not the one to be playing. But this one? Man.
I think the next, I'm pretty sure the next one is referred, I'm saying a positive.
No, I know, I understand. But like this one... It was fun, man. Being able to switch between the 3 dudes.
Yeah, it's fucking great. It's very TMNT.
Like I couldn't reach something, but I switched to Snake Eyes. But he has a higher jump, so I was like, "Oh snap!" Yep, was able to reach it, and then like I had fun. Like it was fun. I had a good time. I would definitely probably.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And I've never like this. It's weird. Like I've never. I know. Like I said, I have enjoyed it every time I played it. A handful of times that I have. I've enjoyed it each time, but I've never had the impetus to sit down and really try to get through it. So, again, the motivation that a game app context would push me into and like have to finish it, that excites me too because the game quality, the gameplay experience definitely warrants that, you know. So
yeah, like I said, I expected to not like it because a big property like G.I. Joe.
Maybe trash.
Yeah, I'm like, it's got to be terrible, right? But no, this is...
No, dude. Yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure this is the lesser. I think that the Atlantis factor, or whatever the next one is, that's here on the NES, is also... Not also, but even more revered than this first one. So, yeah, I think both are pretty fucking good. So, yeah. I also would jam on it. Maybe we'll talk about that later. After these messages.
We'll be right back.
He's breaking the line for the G.I. Joe team. That's right, it's William the Refrigerator Perry. The fridge has joined G.I. Joe.
And you can get a free fridge. Here's how.
Select 5 fridge certificates or call the number on the certificate and the fridge will tell you how to get in on the action with only 4 certificates. There's a $1 handling charge. See details on specially marked G.I. Joe packages.
Watch out, Cobra. Fridge is coming through.
Yo, Joe!
That is a 1987 commercial for the Fridge G.I. Joe action figure. And the best I could glean from that was that it's one of those, or was one of those mail-in deals where you have to send some form of proof of purchase after buying a bunch of retail Joes, and then they'll mail you the figure. And that is actually how I remember it just so clearly. I got both my mummified Mum-Ra Thundercats figure this way, and I also got a Clark Kent DC Superpowers figure. Like in the suit and tie and glasses version of Superman. And I can remember my grandma was the one that carried these out for me. And I can just remember so fucking clearly being in her kitchen and her handing me the boxes. And like the boxes were like, you know, they looked like nondescript sent in the USPS boxes that not like any kind of packaging or anything that would be indicative of the brand or whatever. So they're just like these boxes and they came in and like inside's like this fucking, you know, in my mind, like ultra rare.
I had Mum-Ra as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just, oh God, so fucking good. Yeah. I mean, it's like, it felt like in my mind, the memory of it was like the fucking toy gods just reaching down and blessing me directly. Like that's how it felt at the time, you know? So yeah, just seeing that, it was when I going through G.I. Joe commercial options, which there are a litany of them, as you might imagine. This was the one that jumped out to me for that reason. And I also think it's also just like the U.S. pop culture fascination with that 85 Bears Super Bowl team. And this is 2 years later, too. This is an 87 commercial. So 2 years later, after that team won, they still were like, I don't know, man. Like the fridge was a whole thing. Like he was all over ads and stuff. Jim McMahon was everywhere. Like a shitty ass. He's a terrible quarterback. I mean, I guess he was okay that year. Probably went to a fucking Pro Bowl or something. And he also had a year or two that wasn't too bad with the Eagles when Randall Cunningham got hurt too, I recall, in like 91, 92. So it's not that he was terrible, but he wasn't like, he's not fucking Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or like some sort of like, just...
But we've also talked about like a lot of these sports partnerships being like newer, especially like in a gaming space. So like, I feel like all kind of companies are reaching out like, oh, who could we get? Like,
Yeah, but that's kind of what I mean though. I feel like, and Walter Payton, it's weird. Like Walter Payton to me is far and away the best player on those teams on the offensive side, anyways. I mean, Richard Dent and fucking Mike Singletary and. There were a bunch of the defense was like the greatest defense ever. So there's a bunch of really great defensive players, but defensive players just don't tend to have the same, star power gravitas that a high-end offensive player does. And Walter Payton was a huge thing then, the best running back in the league for a number of years, one of the best of all time. And I feel like he is, one of the least, he got the least play in this to me. And I think that's so weird that these other kind of ancillary characters to him, in my mind, as far as like the on the field shit, were such a crazy ass thing. I mean, I'm sure you remember that fucking music video they made, right? I mean, that was a whole thing.
Yeah, but
team
I definitely remember that. But at the same time, like to me, this was also before I really cared. Yeah, this is before I really cared about it.
But that's more of a testament to the impact or the whatever reach of it. Whoever their fucking publicist was great, because the fact that I even know it existed is a testament. Yeah, because it is way before my football time. And even when I got into it later, that's not the kind of thing I feel like that I would have been looking to learn about or become familiar with. Like I don't give a fuck what their music video was. I don't care. Like. I care about like the on the field stuff when I'm 9 or 10, I don't care about the fucking their off the field persona. So yeah, I don't know. It's just always been weird to me how in a pop culture realm, how big that team got. And it wasn't that, it's even weirder too that it's just a one-off. It's not like they won fucking, like the 49ers winning like 4 Super Bowls in the 80s. Around this one team that did it once, it's just not. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't math out. They were such a well-known group.
Chicago is a big market. It's a huge market. Like
that's true. I guess
promoting.
That's certainly part of it. That's what I mean though. Like there just has
the sheer numbers of people who live there.
There had to be a fucking just a great publicist behind it. I just won't. Has to be. Anyhow. Nintendo Power 22. We're on Now Playing, so let's talk about some shitty games that didn't warrant any feature coverage.
Oh my gosh, so many of them.
Yes, let's first get the eject button games out of the way first. We have THQ's Fox's Peter Pan and The Pirates. This never comes out. The Last Ninja made it onto a number of PC platforms of the era, but Jalico couldn't get this NES version out, so that didn't come out. And then Jalico is also still trying to convince us that this War on Wheels roller derby game is coming out. That never comes out. Yeah, it never comes out, so we know better about that. And the one thing, The Last Ninja doesn't make it out onto the NES, but, it's listed here on this little chart, and the game genre is ninja adventure. That's a pretty good sales pitch.
Right.
So if you all like kind of looking it up, trying to see something about it, the same thing, the Moby Games scores for it on the other platforms were pretty good. So I'm a little sad between that genre and the fact that it was decent on the PC ports.
We were robbed of ninja adventures.
Yeah, yes, I'm fucking super disgusted, man. Super disgusted about that, but whatever. Can't have it all. I had plenty of other options, I suppose. On the not yet out front, we have Taito, which we know this. We've already talked about this. This was in GamePro or something, but that Indiana Jones, I think it's Last Crusade.
Yeah.
Doesn't come out till 93, so that's I think there's probably a lot of reasons for that. It's probably not very good is the main reason, and they eventually just like fucking whatever, it's done, throw it out there. It's fucking Indiana Jones. We'll sell some of them. Was probably the idea when it comes out in 93 at the end of the NES lifespan. And then Toho doesn't roll out Times of Lore until May of 91, so we will address that when it comes along. And there's also one last thing that we're not gonna fucking talk about is the Koei has one of their strategy games here. the Bandit Kings of Ancient China. So this is like the new Bungas. Or
Yeah,
Nobunaga's,
not a
rather,
chance. Not a chance.
They're all the same game, just with different reskinned fucking face sprites, you know?
Yep.
Same exact mechanics and shit, though, and just a format that we're just, you know.
Give me the same thing, only different.
Right. Not even different. It's different artwork. It's the same fucking game. But yeah, fuck that. You can't play that kind of game on a fucking NES controller in 2024. So, shit that is new and relevant. We have High Tech, and they bring another game show joint here. They do a lot of these. And these usually be in the section that we just talked about of like, I'm not fucking with that under any circumstance. But Funhouse, I was just, for some reason, on a hair up my ass. Because I always think of it as think of it as the game show where they would run through the obstacle course and stick video games on their head and shit. And that was same host, different fucking game show.
Interesting.
But because I was on that tangent, I had just watched something with this fucking show recently, and curious to see how it might have been implemented. Because it is still a cool show. It's kind of like, I would call Funhouse like a very Double Dairy, but less messy.
I like it.
You know?
I like
it's like same obstacle courses type thing, but you got the question and answer portion that where you like move to the physical challenge type stuff, but it's just not messy. Which obviously Double Dare is better because of that, but still cool. So yeah, it was a game show I definitely watched as a kid, and I was curious to see how they would implement that obstacle physical challenge component of it.
Yeah. So
it's got a fucking horrendous power meter here, 50%. That's not good. It's not the lowest in the issue, but it's damn close. And my expectations are not high going into it as a result, but holy fuck, is this a bad game? Like, oh my god, dude. Did you try it?
I have played this before, so I'm familiar with it. I'm familiar with the terribleness of it.
Oh, dude, it's awful. It's a top-down.
It's not what you think.
It's nothing like the game. It's nothing like the game show. It's nothing like the game show at all. It's mind-blowing how far from the game show it is. It's just, there's just no fun in the Funhouse at all with this shit. It is fucking bad, dude. Yeah, it's top-down, and it's like, it's not tank controls, because to have tank controls, you need another dimension, I think, right? Yeah. So, like, it's, you just, whatever direction your sprite is facing, and again, it's just a top-down, like, directly top-down, like, no offset at all to give it any depth. It is directly top-down. Like, whenever I see a game like this, I think of boxing on the Atari 2600. Just like that top-down thing.
Absolutely.
And the arms
and
are going.
I love that on the 2600.
Yeah, that's a great game. That was a fantastic game. That's fun as shit. But nowhere near that good. So it's that top-down view. In whatever direction you're facing, when you hit A, I think it's A, B, whichever one it was. Yeah, one shoots, one goes. And whenever you hit that go button, it just runs fast as fuck in that one direction. And, like, you gotta just hit left and right to, like, turn him as you go. And holy fuck, is it not fun to control and hard to control. And then, you gotta, like, run around and pick things up and then also shoot things. And you just got, like, whatever direction you're facing is when you hit the B button, it shoots that direction with a slow-ass shitty sprite. So, like, it's just a bunch of, like, tedium that I only played the one just to see how it worked. And there was nothing that even vaguely comparable to the game show about the area that this happened in. And you had to, like, shoot these 3 things and pick up these 4 fucking, I couldn't even tell what they were, sprites. And then it went to the next level. And I didn't even let that level load on screen before I turned it off.
Yeah. This is sadly in the era of, like, touch and go. Like, you don't know what you're going to get when you get, with any IP. You just really don't know, like, it's hit or miss. And this...
Yeah,
sadly, it's the same thing because I freaking love these game shows. But then you see this was like a rental for me, and I was just like,
oh god,
so excited, and then I'm just like, I can't even play this. Like,
some of these have been, Jeopardy, I think, is a fine representation of Jeopardy. The Wheel of Fortune one isn't so bad, but so it's not like this, but this like high tech.
But when it comes to games like this, like the fun of them is like the challenge, especially like you said, when the physical challenges, it's like doing it, watching the people do this kind of crazy stuff. This does not get any of that. You don't capture any of that, man.
Yeah, terrible. Yeah, I was.
It's sad.
Like I said, expectations were not high, but I was shocked at how far below even those low expectations it fell. It was fucking amazing how bad it was. So the next newbie is Game Tech's Harlem Globetrotters. and this is a DOS port. It's coming from DOS, which is never really a good indicator for a game going to the NES. There haven't been many that came from computer realm into the NES and were good, but this one doesn't fucking shake that trend at all. This is the lowest aggregate in the mag, 48%, so good on them for achieving that benchmark. But, like, I mean, it's every bit of an atrocity, as that figure suggests, I guess, is maybe the simplest way to put it. But, like, you see Harlem Globetrotters as an IP, and I'm thinking tricks and shit, right? You're going to, like, there's going to be something about it that plays into how Harlem Globetrotters as a basketball team plays, which is this very showman-y, whatever. This does none of that. It is just a awful, straightforward basketball game. And unless, here's the thing, I didn't read the manual, and I clearly didn't play it that long, but there's only 2 buttons in the D-pad, and I don't think I could have created, I don't see how I could have created 1 passes and 1 shoots. So, and on defense, they do the same thing, steal and fucking jump. So I don't see how I could have, like, not been executing something that would have made it Globetrotters-y, but it is, you know, every one of these, there hasn't really been a good basketball game on the NES, so I'm not even necessarily knocking it for being a bad basketball game. I'm knocking it for, again, no effort to make it like what you would expect and want a Globetrotters game to be. Just, I mean, nothing.
The computer dunked on me once, and maybe they held on the rim a little too long. So I was kind of like, oh, that was a little something different. But otherwise, I couldn't even get a dunk going. I hit a couple threes.
My ass whooped. Yeah,
and I was like scoring.
I did. I also was like, well, I at least was able to. Yeah, I could score.
Rattle
like
a couple threes.
Without reading the manual, sometimes that can be tough with these NES basketball games for sure. So yeah, it's funny, I had that same thought. Like, oh, at least I'm scoring. But not fun. No. It's not good. Awful looking, awful controlling, awful execution of basketball stuff.
Like, you can't really switch characters, I found. Like, like whoever I'm passing to, yes, I switch to. But once we're on defense, that's just who I am. Like, if I don't get the stop, somebody else, like, he's just going to score. Like, that's because my computer's not going to stop your computer.
Not good. The one thing I will say about it, and the one difference, I think maybe Magic Johnson's Fast Break had this too. I can't recall, but it does do 4 players simultaneous, which I obviously did not try. So maybe there's an iota of fun to be had. Yeah.
Anytime you can play with friends all together once the cousins are over,
there's probably some even that awful fucking Nightmare on Elm Street game. The 4-player part of it is probably kind of fun, just because you and 3 friends on the same screen in 1991 is so boundary pushing that it can't not be somewhat.
It's
fun,
better than what you were going to do alternatively,
right?
Probably.
Yeah, but not a good basketball game. So that was kind of a bummer. The next one, Hudson Soft, is having a big issue this month. They also are the development and publishing outfit behind what the title suggests terrible, but this game is called Princess Tomato and the Salad Kingdom.
Oh my gosh.
So I thought this would be horrific. But it shares the issue's highest power meter rating of 72%.
Which is insane.
Yeah. Which, you know what, man? I got to actually look at something. I have 72% as the highest here, but I think Metal Storm was 74, wasn't it? Was that...
Metal Storm was given 3s. Like, WrestleMania Challenge is higher, is it not? Wait a minute. No, it's not. That's crazy. Wait, G.I. Joe is
363733. Yeah, I feel
no, G.I. Joe might.
I wrote down whatever the case. It's up there with the highest ones in the issue. I guess we don't need to fucking parse that right now. But yeah, I was thinking 72% was the highest, and even with the numbers here, I think it's the same thing. But I could have swore I just said 74.5 for my notes when we were going through Metal Storm. Let me pull this up, actually, and see. Metal Storm, 64%. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I just wrote down 74%. That makes a lot more sense. So Metal Storm is actually a 64.5, not a 74.5. So yes, 70% is the highest power rating in the issue. So it shares that with G.I. Joe. Anyways, it's described as a first-person adventure game with puzzle elements, and that is not what I expected either. With that name, I expected just like a very straightforward action platformer.
I expected Mario rip-offy.
Precisely. Yeah, I expected terrible in every way, genre included.
100%.
But yeah, so this is a windowed point and click kind of deal, very Shadowgate-like.
Not what I expected at all,
dude. And like the story world, like it's kind of, there's like this generic component of it, and like vegetables, whatever. But it's also kind of wild and interesting, I think. And the artwork is kind of interesting too. So, and good, I think. So yeah, I was kind of surprised at. I guess I was surprised after I played it that I thought it was creative, or much more creative than I anticipated it feeling going into it. So that was interesting to me. And I mean, it's clearly, you would never play this for a game episode. It's just not that kind of game. It's very kill questy at best. Not side quest, not enough there for a side quest. Too much or too slow of a thing for a game ep. And, that again, drops into that limbo area, which is why I do those. But the craftsmanship of it all seemed pretty good. And I mean, I still think it's crazy to call it the highest score in the mag,
That is
even
insane
if it's shared.
to me. No way.
Yeah.
No way, man.
Yeah, I agree with that it's not that good. But if I got into it, I might disagree.
I'm going to disagree right now because it's point and click number 1, which is strike like 2.5 to give it to have an adventure.
I don't have a problem with that.
NES.
Philosophically, I don't have a problem with that.
But fair enough to each your own. Understand that. But like, I tried to give this a chance. Like, I played it through. Like, I got the baby the water. Like, I went to the water, got the baby. Percy walking with me.
Power babies! Yeah, there's power babies, man!
No.
You're saving power babies!
You get to the next intersection, and I've gone each direction, and I'm not able to do anything else. And I was kind of like, you're not going to like give me a point and click adventure and have me early on like, what do I do next? Like, I've gone through every menu. I've gone through every menu option on every screen, and I can't do like, what am I missing?
I had a hard time. I think they lob you a mater with that water shit. Like, I know I need to go find a lake, and I, went up, went left. That's not it. It's the fence. I go up, go right, lake. Okay, great. Yeah. Definitely take water. Like, all that was very clear to me. And I go back, talk to the power baby, give him the water. And I couldn't get out of that conversation was my frustration.
Really?
I eventually did, and I'm not entirely, I can't remember which one because there's a litany of, there's too many commands, I think, is a part of it. They need to consolidate some of that. That's one.
Like, I got to look, and I got to talk to, and I got to check, and I got
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah. There was too many things that had some overlap, I felt. And not only does that just give you too much shit to deal with, I think, but it also makes it confusing about which one to engage. Like, I couldn't even get out of the conversation. And I forget which one got me out of the conversation, but I know whatever it was, I was like, that's not the one. Like, it should have been whatever this other one was, So like, that was kind of frustrating. And then, yeah, I mean, it just, like, the movement, like, like, you couldn't, it's not, like, the Shadowgate did a better, those Shadowgate games, Deja Vu also, they put that little map box where it just shows you all your exits, and you can just click on one of the boxes in there, as opposed to, you can also just click on the thing in the window to go to it. But this is just like, when you want to move, you click move, and then it gives you your different options. But then when you want to go back, it's not presented as a whole new option set. It's like, go back to the way I came onto the screen. Yeah, it was fucking weird. Yeah. It was not smart the way the navigation is
that was immediate. I was immediately turned off after that. I'm like, okay, I gave it a chance. Then this happens, and I'm kind of stuck. Like, no.
But that's all. It's in the same way. Like, that's all frustrating just because it's different than anything we're familiar with. Like, all that shit will go away. You play it for like 5 minutes longer, I guess, than we played it. And I think all that shit will become second nature, and it stops being a problem, I think. So, I don't want to knock it long term for that necessarily. It's just, like, yes, Shadowgate exists already, and so did Deja Vu, but that doesn't mean that there's, like, some really defined fucking way of doing a game like this yet. So, they were just fucking trying their own thing. And I know we're looking at it in hindsight, so it's, of course, not that simple, but I don't want to knock it for that and take into account the historical context of when this came out. So, in any event, like I said, way better than I thought it would be, and way more interesting than I thought it would be. I don't think it's right there with fucking. It's crazy to put next to G.I. Joe, I think. But again, I was very surprised with how peaked I was once I got it going. The last one in here is one we've already talked about, but is still notable anyways, the WWF joint of the Times WrestleMania Challenge. And yeah, this is kind of cool. The thing about this that I wanted to bring up was it was in GamePro 18, so I wanted to go back to the score they gave it. We haven't done that a ton, where we look at the two scores and the two mags and see how close or disparate they might have been. And kind of interestingly, because GamePro only works in 5% increments, this one they've added these tenths, so now it gets a little more straightforward. So I think these are kind of the same score in my opinion. GamePro gave it a 65% in issue 18, and GamePro gave it a 68%. I apologize. And here it gets a 65%. So that's pretty close, which I think is accurate. I think it's a little bit like 70% is kind of like that. Like, is it good or not? Roughly, I'd say. And I think WWF, that game is just a little bit below good. It's kind of my take. It's just not. We talked about it. There were just some functional shortcomings that just weren't quite there yet. Better than the first one for sure, but not quite there yet.
Yep. I want to like it. You want to like it so much.
Sure. Of course, it's got Hulk Hogan. Of course, you want to like it.
No, fuck Hulk
and Ultimate Warrior.
Ultimate Warrior. Yes.
On to NES Achievers. Ohio brethren here are Craig Bruni. He finished Crystallis in Martin's Ferry, or from Martin's Ferry, I should say. Then Charisse Sachs hung a banger score in Pinbot in Willoughby. She's third on the leaderboard this month. And then Mike Horton came in at 9th on this month's Tetris Champ Pursuit. He's in Portsmouth, Ohio. So, you know what we always do with these. Willoughby and Portsmouth would probably be just fine Ohio geography lessons in their own right. But I think out of the three, you got to go Martin's Ferry. It's the obvious choice for me for our Ohio geography lesson this month. Where, Jay, is Martin's Ferry located in the great state of Ohio?
I don't have a clue. I think I've heard that name vaguely, but it couldn't. For once, like, it's not. For me, growing up, it's always like, have I heard of you from track meets or other athletic competitions from around the country, not around the state rather. Like, I've heard that name, but I couldn't. I don't play it. Yeah.
Well, the reality
north
of
somewhere.
Ferry,
I'm guessing north somewhere.
Okay. Well, the reality, because of the ferry thing, it might make you think of that. Sure, that makes sense. I hear that logic. That judgment makes a lot of sense to me, knowing what I know now about Martin's Ferry, Ohio, Jay. So it is bordered on the east side by the Ohio River, and it's actually
okay.
It's actually on the part of the Ohio southeastern, right. It's actually, and when I think of the map of the U.S. map, I don't even think of this part of West Virginia, but it's that little strip of land that pokes up between the 90-degree angle of Pennsylvania and the Ohio River southern border of Ohio. So it's like that little tiny strip of land between Pennsylvania and Ohio. So that's kind of interesting. And the city in that little strip of land is Wheeling, West Virginia. So this is essentially, it's thought of as part of the metropolitan area of Wheeling, West Virginia, even though it is in the state of Ohio technically and across the Ohio River. So
I'm like, Wheeling I know because of from always just driving back and forth from New York when we lived there. And
you passed the Wheeling?
Always.
I guess going to Columbus, that makes sense. I was always coming from the more northern route and just go down 80, which is a terrible drive. One of the worst in the country. Driving 80 through the entire state of Pennsylvania is just most awful, nondescript, terrible place. Nothing, not even like the handful of rest stops are all terrible. It's just a Pilot and a McDonald's. Like, it's just nothing. It's just nothing good about that drive at all. And it's long as fuck. The great state of Pennsylvania is so long. It's like 10 hours. It's like the whole drive. It's like that. Even if you're driving through, like when I drove the northern route across through the country, like Montana kind of fell into this category a little bit because it's such a long state and there's nothing in that either. But like, even if you're passing through nothing, like at least hitting the state line and getting the sign and whatever, like at least like keeps your mind stimulated, But when you're in a state that just goes on forever and there's nothing to see and nothing, no new state changes, nothing, it's just like it's worse, And Pennsylvania is 100%.
Clearly you have not driven in Texas or Alaska then, because that is much more of a.
I've definitely never driven Alaska. I have driven Texas. I've never driven through the meat of Texas. I have driven through the Panhandle when I went to Southern route. When I moved out to LA, I took the Route 66 route, and 66 takes you. You go down from Chicago to Oklahoma City, essentially, and then drive west from there, and that takes you through the Panhandle of Texas. And I would say on that entire drive, the Texas Panhandle was probably the most fun part of Route 66 because one, it hasn't become highway yet, so it's still like very rural, and you go through these little shitty ghost town tier places. And there's also just some really interesting shit. You go through Amarillo, and on each side of Amarillo was probably the most interesting thing I saw on the whole trip. To me, were these warring. I think it's the east side is the Cadillac Ranch, and the west side is the VW Bug Ranch. So like these competing artists, like someone built the Cadillac Ranch on one side of Amarillo, Texas, on Route 66, whenever the hell that happened. And they're like, I would say they're like 50s and 60s Cadillacs, so it's probably been there since the 80s or 70s or something. And what they did is they took the entire car bodies and put them on steel beams and jammed the beam into the ground. So like the cars are sticking up like front end near the ground with the ass end straight up in the air, a little bit at an angle, but basically kind of just sticking straight up in the air. And there's just a bunch of them, and it's an unmonitored public art installation, I guess is the way I want to describe it, in that anyone can go up to it and paint on it or paint on them or do whatever they want to them. So they've been painted over 8 billion times, and it's like a thing to do on this drive through this area is to stop and put your own shit onto the Cadillac Ranch cars, you know? So that's cool and interesting, I think. And then, because that, I don't know, I don't know the full story of it. It's probably Googleable. I'm surprised I haven't Googled it. Maybe I even have and just forgotten it. It wasn't interesting enough. I don't know. But in like an artistic response to that, on the other side of Amarillo, on the same highway, there is a VW Bug version of the same thing. So it's just a bunch of old VW Bugs also on steel things sticking up in the air that people have painted onto and done a bunch of, put their own artistic stamp on over the years. So it's just a really weird, interesting thing that I've never seen. I've done a lot of driving through the country, and yeah. So that is in Texas. So to me, the state of Texas, as far as driving goes, is actually kind of interesting. Which,
of course, you found the interesting kind of stretch there.
Yeah. I can certainly see how the rest of Texas, especially West Texas, like my buddy Will was stationed in El Paso for a long time, and he's like, that's in the mountains on the west side there as you're getting towards Arizona, and he's like, woo, buddy, does that suck. It's hot as fuck, and it just sucks. There's just nothing cool there. So that's not surprising to hear if you're passing through that part of it. That's not any good. And obviously that far north, Texas is so fucking huge. That far north, it's less miserable heat-wise too. Mm-hmm. So, and I was driving in April, no less, so it also did not suck so bad. But other than that, I haven't really spent any time in Texas. I had to do a layover because I missed a flight in fucking Arlington / Dallas one time. And I've been to Austin a bunch, I guess. But Austin is cool, so I guess that doesn't count either. But I haven't done a lot of just like fucking driving around in Texas.
Fair enough. Sure. Why would you unless you have a reason to?
Right, precisely. I agree. Anyhow, this city, Martins Ferry, is the most populous city in Belmont County, Jay, at a whopping 6,260 peeps at the 2020 census. So it is a sprawling metropolis by southeastern Ohio / West Virginia standards. And it is credited as being the oldest European settlement in the state of Ohio, Jay. How about that?
Wow.
At least as early as 1779 is the first record of settlement. And like I said, that's at least as early. There's no written record, but someone may have been there earlier than that. And that is at least a decade or about a decade before Marietta, Ohio, which I guess is like, I don't know, another semi-known as early settlement in the state of Ohio, based on what I was reading in my little Wikipedia jaunt through Martins Ferry history. And I guess it's, what I wrote down was, I guess it's another early spot for white people commandeering land from Americans. It gave no indicator. It gave no written indicator of why. Like when I read Marietta, I was like, who cares a shit about Marietta? Why are you telling me that it's like, I don't know? But I guess, it must just be an early adopter as far as settlements go. But So being on the river, it has served, or it has served as a semi-important rail and industrial hub for the era. Because you can obviously go down the Ohio River and then jump on a railway from there and head west. So it, was a focal point for that at one point in time. That's no longer applicable as any sort of real means of getting things places. So the population has sunk precipitously since the early 1900s maybe was its high point, and it's around half of that now. So really, I mean, they talk about it like it's been some big drop, but it was only twice that, like 12,000 something at its high point. So it was never a huge place, but it certainly was a more known, at least at one point in time. They have a picture on the wiki. There's a picture of the downtown, like what I'm guessing is like the most busy corner, and it's I think it said 4th Street, maybe it called it. So I mean, the fact that there's even, Oberlin doesn't have a 4th Street, so it's bigger than Oberlin probably.
Oberlin only has a 1st Street, and that's it, just the one street.
There's no numbers at all. they don't even bother to get into numbering because there's just not that many. I mean, it's weird because it's a college, so there actually is like a lot. The city layout it has enough streets where I think you could probably get away with some of them, but I think just the design plan wanted to keep it a little more, I don't know, more descriptive than that. Like there's a Pleasant Street and fucking,
gotcha.
I don't know, Lorraine Street. There is a Main Street, at least, I guess, as far as just stock city decisions go, city planning decisions. Like a Professor Street. There's like a lot of college-oriented stuff, I should say, as far as the street names go. So yeah, but anyways, they have a Subway store featured in that picture, so that's probably the most banging thing it seemed they had going on was a Subway location.
Okay.
There are, despite its size, there are some pretty solid sports notables that have come out of there, particularly, given how small it was. Lou the Toe Groza is from here. He was a Hall of Fame kicker that played for the Brownies, actually, just kind of up the street to some degree, which is kind of interesting, I think, for Ohio sports fans. And he had a brother named Alex that was an Olympic gold medalist in 1948 that I had never heard of. So quite a talented family. And the MLB pitcher Niekro brothers are from here. Joe and Phil, and the latter was a Hall of Famer, Phil Niekro. Certainly a guy. It's before my baseball time by a mile, but I do know that name. So there's that on the baseball front. And then when it comes to basketball, John Havlicek, who was a Hall of Fame Boston Celtic, was also had a nice college run at Ohio State. So some people will know him from there. Also for Martin's Ferry. And thank you for joining us for this month's Ohio Geography lesson. As always, dear listener, this segment of the Imperial Schools of Honor podcast is brought to you by your mom. And then we get a rogue 2-banger on Princess Tomato. This was weird as fuck to me. I felt like we were done with features. We do now playing. And I feel like they went through, did their grades, and they were like, holy shit, Princess Tomato's good. Not terrible based on the name. We got to do a feature on this. Throw it here. That's how I felt this.
Which was so dumb to me because I was done with it, and I'm like, why are
right, exactly right. I already played it. Right, exactly. Yeah. So it didn't even, if I'd have got this before now playing, it might have juiced me a little bit more on it, and I might have had a different feeling coming out of it even if I'd have gotten this first. So yeah, it was a weird layout decision that felt impromptu to me, no question. The data box hardware is pretty bunk, though. It's a 1M by 1M cart with a lowly MMC1 chip, so maybe that's why.
Explains a lot. With the
yeah, exactly right. Yeah. It couldn't even jam you with an MMC3 chip. Going back to the MMC1, it's just not up to snuff, man. Can't play those kind of games in 1991. MMC3 or bust, bro.
Oh my god.
There's some chatter in here about the battle mechanics, and I didn't experience one in my short tryout.
Nope.
Here, but apparently it's one of those rock, paper, scissors Rochambeau fucking systems.
That's
that
right.
Those were in the most recent instance of those. Those are a big thing in the not Baldur's Gate. What were the ones before that? Divinity Sin. Those were a big part of the Divinity Sin games. Was a rock, paper, scissors system. When you that's how you executed not battle but interactions with NPCs that might lead to a battle. I guess if they go particularly wrong, but that's how you won arguments and stuff, was to do Rochambeau, which is
Yeah.
Kind of fun. It's interesting here, I guess.
Yeah, no way. You gotta it tells you to map the mazes. Like that's a no. Yeah. That's a no.
That was the part that I was most excited about. Like, fuck yeah, I'll map that. I mean, that sounds great.
You. I just added to my no thanks. Yeah. Like I gave this a good try.
I didn't even get to a maze, and maybe that wouldn't be fun. I don't know, but
yeah,
the mapping part doesn't bother me at all. Next is a 4-banger blinging us in the nominations for what's been rebranded the Nesters, not the Game Epic nominations yet. So this is actually the 1990 edition of the Nintendo Power Awards, as they've been called previously. And yeah, other than our mullet counts or playoffs fucking things that we do here for the pod, I think these are the things that I find most fun. All these like magazine tangent side things that we do.
Yeah.
These are super fun. So I've devised a Google ballot form, so all Lord disciples, ourselves included, can vote with hindsight on who deserves these awards in each category. And that has already been distributed on both the Facebook page and the Instagram. I will continue to pump it out between now and the next issues. I'm guessing is when it'll happen. I guess we weren't on a monthly clip yet for the 90 awards, so maybe they only took one issue because it was bi-monthly, and maybe now it'll take longer for them to compile this shit. So we shall see. But whenever the magazine here does the award presentations and names who wins, I will tally the votes accumulated to date, and we will talk about those on the pod as well. But I thought, just for ourselves, we could go through our nominations. And we actually don't have Jabs yet. That motherfucker. I meant to make him fucking do this before we recorded. I totally forgot. He's such a cunt. Such a cunt. But yeah, we'll do ours though, anyways. And who gives a shit what who gives a shit what Jab thinks, anyways? Actually, and now that I think about it, the categories again start with the 4 mirroring the trusty power meter, graphics and sound being the lead off. So Jay, could you please read the description of that category so we know exactly what we are discussing?
Dynamite explosions, gigantic characters, outrageous colors, and a catchy theme song. These are just a few of the things that make for great graphics and sound in the game. It will be difficult to choose a single winner in this category. And I agree, because I was looking at Mega Man 3 very hard, very, very long and hard before settling on Super Mario Brothers 3.
Okay. I was going to ask you. I figured that would be my guess for that. Or for you, from that, rather. When I was going through and making the ballot, I'm just, I'm duplicating the previous ballot Google form I had made and just updating it, of course. So there's more. I, was working from the previous one, and I would have to delete the old games and add new ones. And the two things. One, more in each category, so they've added more games here. Yep. So it is harder to choose, basically, because you have more options, was my point there. But two, it was funny to me how many times that I would be about to put the next game as I'm copying them from the magazine here, and instead of having to delete the name, I would just go to the end of that line and add another I. Because it's just like Mega Man 3 instead of Mega Man 2, Ninja Gaiden 2 instead of Ninja Gaiden 1. Nice. That was a thing. Dragon Warrior 1 and 2, like that was a thing for sure in the last when I was updating that I thought the number of times it happened was very funny to me.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So we didn't go through it here, but the Batman or the options rather are Batman, Castlevania 3, Gremlins 2, Mega Man 3, Super C, SMB 3 as you were selecting, and then Solstice. What in the fuck is Solstice doing in there?
I'm telling you, man, because it's a dope game.
That's a plant you will not be able to convince me wasn't paid for.
Oh my gosh.
So that's insane to me to be in the group here. But other than that, Woo Buddy is the Sapphire lineup for sure. Very fitting all these games to be here, I think. So yeah, I mean, I for graphics and sound specifically, and that's an interesting thing too. Is what I think is most interesting about these is it forces you to like compartmentalize and take a game that you might have this overall feeling for, and cut the bullshit out of your thought process for what you're choosing here. That's the interesting thing about these to me, more so than just picking my favorite games, which is what it could be. So that's what I like about this. And for when I'm like trying to zero in on graphics and sound specifically, I don't think if I could live with myself if I didn't represent for Batman and Sunsoft here. Like what they did on NES hardware, visually, was near wizardry, in my opinion. Like those cutscenes were fucking unreal. The Batmobile, depictions of that and shit. And then, again, going back to the pixel art representations of the actual actors as the characters was just, it was photorealistic, dude. And like on the NES, that to me was so impressive. Especially, you know, it's early 1990 that we're talking about here with that. And I just...
Fair enough.
Yeah, super impressive to me. And I think that is what I have to go with. And... to boot, like, I'm not forgetting about the audio side of it either. Like, the music and the effects are all absolute fire, too. Like, Sunsoft is right there with Capcom when it comes to executing music and sound effects on the NES hardware. So, yeah, I mean, it's fucking pretty fucking good in both those categories, I think, and would be my selection for sure. So next we have theme and fun. And this is a difficult category for a game to score well in because it's tough for what makes a game fun. It's tough to say, rather, what makes a game fun. Wacky settings, kooky characters, and interesting plots are things that add to a game's theme. Games that score a high mark here make these elements unusual and different, but appealing and well integrated into the gameplay. So the options here are Dragon Warrior 2, Kickle Cubicle, Maniac Mansion, Mega Man 3, Ninja Gaiden 2, Rescue Rangers, and then Super Mario Brothers 3. And again, kind of, I think the one outlier here is Kickle Cubicle to me. Like, it's a cute and good little puzzle game. Like, you know, kind of, It's not quite Adventures of Lolo, but it's in that vein and you know, good in a lot of ways. But dropping that with the rest of the heat here is fucking nuts, I think, you know. So, again, I think, and it's like, there's other things too that theme and fun, like, you know, we could have put here in that place too. So like, it's not even like with the Game Boy when we talked about maybe there's some reaches there because of the lack of a library. Like NES doesn't have that problem. In 1990, plenty of games came out. We can find fucking 8 or however many it is, 7 here in this case, that are all absolute bangers. You don't have to give me the Cubicle fucking weirdo entry, you know.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
So what
for sure. This one, Rescue Rangers, Chip and Dale. Are you kidding me?
Okay. I'm torn between the RPG magnificence of Dragon Warrior 2 and the outright zaniness and creativity of Maniac Mansion. But if you put a gun to my head, or maybe even a chainsaw in the case of Maniac Mansion, I think I'd go Maniac here. Because it is just so quirky and out there, you know? So, that's my take on that. Challenge comes next. Jay, handle that one.
A challenging game should test the skills of even the best player, but not be impossible for players of lesser ability. A good challenge level makes the difference between merely feeling relief at finishing a nearly impossible game or feeling satisfaction at completing a rewarding test of skill. And for this, we have Battle of Olympus, which is insane. Okay. Castlevania 3, Crystalis, Mission Impossible, Snake's Revenge, Solar Jetman, and Solstice. And obviously out of this maniac crew of challenge.
Yeah, it's like I wrote down that it's very hodgepodgey to me. This is a very hodgepodgey group, I think.
I think they just threw a bunch of stuff like there. This is just hard stuff. Stuff that's just like, it's a challenge. Like, what are we doing here? So for me, this is Solstice.
Okay. I agree. Solstice is hard, but not in a good way. That's how, like, Battle Olympus is the same thing. Like, that was hard. And there's even some, same with Solstice. I mean, you know, I'm not saying.
See, I like it though. I like it, but
they're not terrible.
Yeah.
But there's like, again, they're just like, yes, we're zeroing in on one specific category, but it can't be a failure in others simultaneously. And Solstice and Battle of Olympus both are failures in some way.
Battle of Olympus, I will grant you, yes.
Snake's Revenge too, same thing like that. I love Metal Gear, but it failed in a lot of ways. So this is a weird group to me. I think for me, I am going to go with a game that I've been truckstoning forever, and that's Solar Jetman. It's like hard challenge, but good hard, and navigating all that gravity stuff that game has in it with lunar lander controls was just a really unique way to impose challenge. And it even going to the letter of the law here of how they describe it, like, I think there is this uphill, like, steep learning curve to it that you will bump your head up against when you first start, but it can be learned, and then once you do, it can be learned by everyone specifically, even players of lesser ability can get there, I think, to enjoy this game with just a little bit of repetition, but then mastery of it and beating this game, which I've never done myself, is a fucking thing, So I think in the way it's described in particular, that's my choice, even on top of, like I said, I've been truck sitting that game forever, so to give it a little love here makes me happy in another regard as well. The last power meter category is play control, and this is described as a game can score well in other categories and fall flat from poor play control. Even if the main character has lots of cool moves, it's not easy to make them. If it's not easy to make him perform, the game loses its appeal. Games with good play control are easy to get into and add to the challenge in other ways. So the nominees here are Batman, Little Nemo, Mega Man 3, Ninja Gaiden 2, Super C, SMB 3, Solar Jetman. No outliers here. That's all appropriate to me entries here.
Agreed.
What was yours?
I was close. This one was a close one. I considered. I was hearing Little Nemo. I was hearing Mario 3, but I ultimately went with Mega Man 3. You got the introduction of the Rush Jet and all that kind of good stuff, so I had to go Mega Man 3.
Okay, that's a perfectly reasonable choice, I think. I got to stick with Batman. I think the wall jump is the chef's kiss of NES control design. We talked about it ad nauseum in our game app, and that I don't forget that or my feelings about it even before that. So yeah, to me, that is the one here that I think deserves the most commendation. These are all, like I said, these are all there's nothing in there. I would say, Little Nemo is probably the worst out of that lot, but it's also great. So exactly. The floor here is fucking great, I think. So yeah, well nominated category there. Then they go into some funsy categories that starts with best hero.
The best hero. Video game heroes come in all shapes and sizes. Good heroes have cool moves, superpowers, and lots of character. Great heroes not only help make a game great, some even get their own breakfast cereal. And let me tell you, Pac-Man cereal, Super Mario Brothers cereal was delicious back in the day. Yes, it was. It's all made out of the same stuff, but it was delicious.
Yeah, maximum sugar. That's what it's made out of.
Oh, man. But look at these heroes. Our nominees here. Blobbert the Blob from A Boy and His Blob. Chip and Dale, of course, from Rescue Rangers. Gizmo from Gremlins 2, The New Batch. Kikko from Kikko Cubicle, which is a very odd addition again here. Little Nemo from Little Nemo the Dream Master. Lolo from Lolo 2. Mario from Super Mario Bros. 3. Mega Man from Mega Man 3. Ryu Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden 2. And then Donatello of all the Ninja Turtles.
Jay! I feel so seen. When I was reading through this, I felt so seen that Donatello was the one turtle chosen. And I think it's more significant. It's even more significant because they do it. The Chip and Dale they're named and nominated in unison, together. So
yeah, what is that?
They break the norm and go with just one turtle, and it's fucking Donatello. It made me so happy, dude. It made me
so unexpected. Happy. I was very confused reading that list. I'm like, what? Don't get me wrong. He's the smart one. He's got the staff, the bow staff.
What's this? And he makes machines or whatever. What the fuck is it? What's the opening cartoon sequence thing? It's something Donatello something, and he makes machines or some shit.
Either way, he was not my choice for this best hero, regardless of his inclusion. Great job on being included, though, Donatello, in your smarts. Again, this is a tough one. How do you go against Mario when Mario 3 stepped on the scene? But, at the same time, because of the uniqueness, and the story itself, I went with Little Nemo.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, Donatello's my favorite turtle. That's not new information for anyone. This is this podcast. But I'd never choose a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle out of this list. Yeah. So definitely not going that direction for this. And yeah, again, compartmentalizing what we're being asked here. I'd never choose this game as the best game or a good game, even maybe. At least not to the tier that awards warrant as my choice for this. But if you're just talking specifically about the hero,
just the hero,
and being the cutest and most emotive in my mind, I'm going with Gizmo.
Gizmo, fair, okay.
The ones too, you know.
Okay.
And I think it's somewhat unfair, maybe, because I feel like Gizmo, out of all these, has the most cinematic presence that allows you to relate to it, or to or to him, and you know, thereby have more of an affinity for and more relatable, yada yada yada. So it has a little bit of an unfair advantage, but I'm not told to disqualify that. In fact, they even talk about their licensability with the cereal. So, you know, I think that has to be factored into it. Even.
Exactly. I mean, that's probably why I like Chip and Dale. Like, they were very high on the list. Like, I love that show. Are you kidding me? I watch it all the time.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, even though Dale's the better, and we don't agree on that.
Ridiculous. Oh, I get it.
So we are moving to Best Bad Guy, and this is a short and sweet. Villains come in many forms. Some you love to hate, and some you just dislike intensely. But the great villains keep you coming back for more. Our nominees here are Ashtar from Ninja Gaiden 2, the Koopalings from obviously Super Mario Bros. 3, Chaos from Final Fantasy, Dr. Fred and Nurse Edna from Maniac Mansion, Dr. Wily from Mega Man, Dracula from Castlevania, Gremlins, the whole gang of them, although Mohawk most explicitly probably, from Gremlins 2, then the Joker from Batman, the Metal Slime from Dragon Warrior 2, and then Shredder from TMNT, specifically TMNT 2 here, not the first one. And to me, dude, it is such a hot creative choice by the team here to go with the Metal Slime and not Hargon.
Right,
DW2.
of all the...
I just love that so much. So, you know, it's foreshadowing perhaps, but that has to be acknowledged as such an awesome choice, I think, by them. Jay, how did you play this?
So the only one, like, it's tough because I immediately want to look at Dr. Wily and think, like, all right, gotta be Dr. Wily.
He's a terrible.
But that's what I mean, like, because of Mega Man. But like, when
it's not the game, it's not the game. It's the
one
He's terrible.
Character that gives me an immediate reaction that I have an immediate reaction to is Shredder from TMNT 2. So
he's a great villain.
Yeah,
especially maybe you know what.
He turns Super Shredder, like he pisses you off,
and like again, if you try to hold someone to the you know the expressed intent with this category by the governing body here with this description, like the great villains keep you coming back for more. You love to hate, some you just like intensely, but they're talking about dislike and bringing you back for more. And like Shredder might be the best argument for that specific request. Yeah. I'm not choosing him, but
I mean, I did have Batman. I had Joker feelings as well, but specifically Jack Nicholson's, like Jack Nicholas, Jack Nicholson's Joker from the movie that's, you know, in that game. So I had I thought about that for a second, but it was really Shredder above and beyond for me.
Well, I am similarly torn here between, I think I already had this dichotomy with a different category, but the Maniac Mansion and DW2 options here both pique me. Like, I really like that Nurse Edna and Dr. Fred are very interesting and fun villains, you know, even though they're kind of maybe complex in that they're ultimately not villains. They're just under the control of the actual villain. So that's actually, maybe you want to write in and bitch about that. That should maybe be the meteor. You know, I understand the meteor is less emotable and therefore, you know, less interesting, but the meteor is the real villain in that game. And I didn't even think that when I was jotting this down. Either way, though, I don't think I can go that direction. I think I have to appreciate that Metal Slime. It's just too appealing to me and quirky to pass up as far as my if I'm going to vote here. Sometimes you do the vote. You vote for the thing that is, you know, actually the best issue or way to go on the issue, or the smart thing that you should be, you know, you're trying to shape society here with your governmental votes, yada yada yada. But sometimes you just got to pick the motherfucker you like. Sometimes you just got to pick the person you like, and you know, that's maybe not the most responsible choice in a democracy, but it certainly happens a lot, and I'm going to go with it here. And then most innovative is the other new one, and I like this a lot as a category. They They got rid of what did they get rid of? God, whatever the case, it's a new category. And Jay, please explain to us what it was.
Innovation is a constant occurrence with NES games and accessories. Here are a few items that we think deserve special mention as real light bulb ideas. And that's a boy and his blob, a Big Bird's hide and speak, Maniac Mansion, Miracle Keyboard Teaching System, Shadowgate, Solar Jetman, and Super Glove Ball with the power glove.
Don't you fucking say it on this podcast. Get that fucking schmarred up shit out of my face. Get out of here. No chance in fuck I'm giving any love to that. We don't even mention even the game that was released solely as a tech demo for it. We don't even talk about that either. I'm deleting that. Edit button. So what did you pick? It better not have been that.
No. Out of this list is just Maniac Mansion. You know.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. I love it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if we're, again, purely looking through the lens of the innovation on the NES specifically, too, I think, I'm also going Maniac Mansion. Like, Shadowgate did a good job of bringing a deep CPU port onto NES hardware. Like, that was not I don't want to talk any shit about that. And the game itself is great. But Maniac's execution of the Scum engine, like those verb set deals and the point-and-click aspect of it, with a controller, was leaps and bounds more player-friendly than the Shadowgate's version of that. So I think that has to be commended here on top of also, accomplishing a great game. So I concur. The last side category is Best Multiplayer. And this is playing the NES with a friend doubles or even quadruples the fun. Whether you're using teamwork to beat your buddies on the football field or trying to trash the other guy in Dr. Mario, these games offer the extra challenge of going at it with a human opponent. And the nominees are Dr. Mario, Gauntlet 2, Little League Baseball, NES Play Action Football, Spot, the video game, and Super Spike V-Ball, and lastly, TMNT 2, the arcade game. And that's a nice lot of games. It gives you a lot to argue about, I think, so I like the option set presented here. How did you...
I mean, it's a great option set, but it's obviously Ninja Turtles 2. I mean, that is the best way to play simultaneously without question. I mean, what else are there to talk about? The other games are fun, don't get me wrong. Great list, but it's TMNT 2.
My thing about, like, as much as I like the overall list, I think it's unjust to not split this into two subcategories. Both a head-to-head category and then a co-op category. I think we have two very different types of games.
True, I guess.
Fit into very different categories of multiplayer and your enjoyment of them, in my opinion. So, for me, the head-to-head option would be Dr. Mario without question. It's like fucking crack. I've talked about this extensively. There's just no arguing it at all. It's fucking incredible. And then for co-op, I think I also like TMNT 2. But to me, there's more, again, if you're isolating the variable and you're talking about the cooperative aspect of it, the communication shit about NES Play Action Football is really fucking cool. Those cards and like, okay, opposite as drawn, calling the play, you can pick which receiver, you got to run this route, maybe I'll throw to you, maybe it's not the smart thing to do here, we communicate on defense, one player is rushing the quarterback, another is fucking dropping back in the cover. There's just so much to that.
Yeah, I guess that. Yeah, I can see that.
Is a next level of cooperativeness that hasn't been achieved to that level on a couch anywhere at this in 1990 or early 91. So yeah, to me, that's what I think the cooperative one would be. So those are the subcategory specific compartmentalized deals. And then next we'll have the big boy best overall, which they tack on a Game Boy category here as well. Like I mentioned, Jay, please read the NES description of how we should approach deciding the best overall title.
The best overall NES game should score high in all areas, combining all aspects of a good video game into an entertaining gaming experience. Sorry, you can only vote for one, so choose carefully. The nominees for the best NES game of 1990 are Batman, Castlevania 3, Final Fantasy, Maniac Mansion, Mega Man 3, NES Play Action Football, Ninja Gaiden 2, Super C, Super Mario Bros. 3, and TMNT 2, the arcade game.
I love play action, but it's a little crazy to have that with this list of absolute bangers. Like that's home cooking to me.
That was a great game. I mean, I loved it at the time. Don't get me wrong. Like back then, I did love that game, but I'm going Super Mario 3, and it's not even a question.
Yeah, that's a reasonable thing that I think many people would agree with you on. This was tough for me. Like I said,
did you go Batman again?
Batman and Final Fantasy are, to me, pinnacles of the system. And the tough part about that is they are pinnacles of the system for polar opposite reasons.
Yeah, I'm like definitely.
Yeah, they're just, it goes without saying the game format is different. But again, also, I think what would make them the best overall choice is just very, very different. And to me, the way I got to an end result here that I could actually get behind was, out of the two, as great as Final Fantasy is, it's broken in some ways. There are things about it that are broken.
Yeah,
and
like, what are we
it's still an incredible experience and probably the best RPG on the system. But there are some broken things with it. And Batman, conversely, is a perfect video game. It is, it was my graphics and sound thing, so clearly it knocks out of the park there. Also, best controls. That's critical, I think. Enjoying what you're doing. I talk about that so much. Just the action of it being a factor in whether or not a game is good. It just nails that at an unreal level, I think. The theme is great. They capture the Batman stuff in a great way. There's all the movies, a lot of movie stuff in there, but they don't let themselves, live and die by that. They're willing to gamify it in some ways, and it's all enjoyable, I think. And Batman's a great hero. Joker's a great villain. Again, I didn't thought to look at it this way. If you just go through the different categories, like where it's falling in this, if you kind of give it, if you do that thing where you second place is getting you however many.
Oh yeah, I thought about that because I had Mario at always even if it didn't win second, second, maybe third.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it just nails all the things. Theme and fun, challenging as fuck. Maybe that might be the biggest knock on it. Is a little too hard. I don't know how you're getting to the end of that game without some cheese action going on. So, but generally speaking, yeah, I think that's my overall choice because it just is so close to a perfect game and so fucking fun. And it also led to maybe my favorite economic analysis to date on the podcast: the cleaning up the dead body after it falls off a tower.
Craziness.
So the last thing we have here is the Game Boy overall deal, and that is described as pick the penultimate program for your pocket full of power. Whew, that's some alliteration. Game Boy. Since best Game Boy game wasn't a category in the 1989 NES Awards, we've allowed some of the best games. Oh, that explains it too, that they actually did allow themselves a bigger pool. So that doesn't explain. I didn't read that, and that's not a good reason to have Quick's Karth and golf.
Hey,
but
this is great.
yeah. So yeah, then they've expanded the pool with all games to date on this, and the category or the nominations rather are Castlevania: The Adventure, Dr. Mario, Final Fantasy Legend, Gargoyle's Quest, Golf, Play Action Football, Quicks, Quarth, Super Mario Land, and then TMNT 2, Fall of the Foot Clan.
And
Jay, how did you rock?
These options make a lot more sense to me because you think about the Game Boy, you think about something that's mobile, you're on the go, much more like you would play a mobile type of game, a puzzle.
Can you fucking believe Tetris isn't on here? That's my thing. Where the fuck is Tetris?
That's a little silly. Maybe they felt like that was unfair. No, it came with the game. You're going to get it. Everybody loves it. It's not fair. I don't know. It's weird.
I guess.
It's weird. I got nothing. Choice. I can't even justify what I just said, so I don't even know. But I mean, I'm going Super Mario Land because that's a great game.
Okay. Excuse me. It's good, game. But it's not. There's not enough going on there.
But I mean, I look at this list and I don't look at any of these as absolute fire. Ninja Turtles is a good Game Boy game. Kicks is a good game. I've never played Final Fantasy Legend, can't speak to that. But the other games are good games. Super Mario Land is a good game. They're not the level of we see on the NES, the regular card side where it's Mega Man 3, great. Super C, Mario, a lot of great games.
So yeah, to me, that's the thing. I'm going Final Fantasy Legend here, and it's by a margin. I think the biggest reason for that is how much it gives you on the Game Boy. And like, it's an RPG by nature, so inherently that's just a long format, so maybe that's a little biased towards the genre to kind of value that high enough to be the reason. But yeah, it just gave me that's how I looked at it, was just which of these games gave me the most.
Yeah.
And I feel like Final Fantasy Legend did that by quite a margin. And that's, I liked to play action football on fucking Game Boy. Dr. Mario also was great on there. It's almost a 1-to-1 fucking experience. And I'd actually give that probably a nice honorable mention, because some link cable action with Dr. Mario is dope on the Game Boy. And yeah, Jabhead TMNT 2, I like that. I love Super Mario Land 2, but again, it was Super Mario Land, as fun as it was such an abridged experience. You could beat that game in like 17 minutes.
It was short, yeah. 17 minutes, come on. Like,
yeah.
No.
I bet the speed runs are probably hilarious in there. They're probably like 9 minutes or something.
I don't know. It took me a while, so maybe, I don't know. I never was a speedrunner type of dude,
Oh, me either. I'm not looking at it through that lens. I'm simply saying there's just not a lot of content there. So
yeah, it was short for sure. Not an 8-world adventure. I don't remember how short it is, but yeah.
So yes, that is the Nintendo Power Awards for 1990. We will dive into the user feedback and then the aggregation of ours and theirs when we get the award winners via the Nintendo Power gods here in a later issue. One cool footnote on this, sitting in your ballot here, is this month's Players Poll, and the prize for that is 25 entrants are getting it. Is a 10-cart game pack collection that Howie curates and decides the make-up of himself. So that's kind of interesting. I'd say based on this issue goes, Battletoads definitely going to be in there. So good news if you like Battletoads and you won this contest in 1991. Counselor's Corner has a lot of action for ISOH Game App alums and SideQuest alums. There's some Maniac Mansion stuff, getting out of the dungeon and getting through both the outer and inner lab security doors. For DW2, we have Sun and Mooncrest locations, as well as, spoiler alert, those behind on your side quest, the dog showing you where the golden key is buried is also in here. And then there's a bit of Mega Man 3 action and Shadow of the Ninja stuff. The worst thing ever is in here, though, most importantly. There's not a single fucking mullet counselor, Jay.
Yeah, mullets are like out of style at this point.
Oh my god, dude! Do you think that's so?
It's got to be, because they went to a shift. Everybody has short hair, short.
Right? Yeah. There's no party in the back. There's this. It's all. There's no part in the back to their Flobies at all. It's all just super business up front.
Moving
nothing fun
on.
in the back. That's. I hope to God that's an aberration and not a developing trend, because that would nearly entirely ruin my Nintendo Power experience moving forward if we're not going to have mullet.
Well, styles do change, Josh. Styles have to change.
Yeah, but I don't want to.
At some point, they're all going to be Zach Morris lookalikes. Like,
I'm not ready for it yet, Jay. I'm emotionally not ready for that, Jay. We can't have that happen. Almost as bad as that. Mullet deprivation. None of them have anything funny in their profiles either. Like, no. Eli has listening to rap music as one of his hobbies, and that's kind of funny given how much he looks like an Eli. But that's not that great. And then the other one that maybe could be argued for is Joaquin enjoys practicing karate. Not karate or whatever. He enjoys practicing karate. And that is kind of a funny wording to me. But again, not that great. So
that's how he gets centered, man, and maintains his chi.
That's fine, but usually what's funnest about these is A, mullets, and then B, really big swinging dick hobbies or accomplishments of some kind. And there's just nothing here. It's all very ho-hum and modest, and fuck that. I don't come to Nintendo Power for modest game counselors. I want dudes who think they fucking own the world with their gaming accomplishments and or hobbies. So that was a real big
do better next time, Nintendo. Do better.
I pray to God we do. Like I said, shitty cover, shitty mullet counselors. This is just a bunk ass issue of Nintendo Power on the overall, I think. So what are you going to do? They all can't be winners, I suppose. Yeah. We have the top 30. After that, the top 10 goes Super Mario Bros. 3, Final Fantasy, Crystalis, Mega Man 3, then 2, right in a row there. So, yeah. Whoa. And then Dr. Mario, Legend of Zelda, DW2, NES Play Action at 9, and then Castlevania 3 at 10. And as far as notables go, rather, from my perspective, they're fucking lying about Wheel of Fortune being a newcomer at 19. That's bullshit. Like I said, it's not bad as far as those game or fucking high-tech fucking expressions game show things go, but get the fuck out of here in the top 30. That's nuts. And then I love how they tried to slip in the Mike Tyson-less Punch-Out it's listed here in pink, suggesting it's a newcomer at 20.
Yeah.
But that's not a new game. You're just trying to quietly replace it without Mike, so fuck you.
They couldn't just leave it as like the same.
Right.
They had to do something different.
Right. That jumped out to me pretty hardcore.
I mean, Super Off-Road sneaking in at number 30.
At 30? Yeah, I like that too. That made me happy as well. I agree. And then also the big thing to me, the other rather notable thing to me, Mega Man 1 is also at 24. So
hell yeah, man.
I'm curious. I didn't go back and check, but I'm wondering if that's the first time we have 3 franchisee entrants and 1 top 30.
It could be.
I mean, we could. SMB's maybe done it. Maybe. But I feel like by the time we got 3, 1 would have been phased out as something that would get.
I don't know, because even for me, and I don't know, obviously I am not indicative of how the whole franchise went, but like I played 2 first. I was like, oh, this is a great game. Then I played 3, and then I also went back and played 1 after that. Like I didn't get into 1. Like I don't know how that worked. I feel like 1 was not that. I mean, not I feel like I know 1 wasn't that popular.
Yeah, that was
like
the
big one.
That's entirely a function of you enroding to it off someone else's, because every kid who got their own system, even if you got it used, you got a copy of SMB with it that you played. So anyone onboarding to the NES era with their own system is definitely almost certainly hitting SMB 1.
No, of course. I'm talking about Mega Man, but yeah.
Oh, I thought you said...
I said Mega Man. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Absolutely not. No.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that's
that's just why I think still 1 was still like active.
I feel the same way about that, and we've talked about the reasons for that. Mega Man 1 did not do a good job of marketing, so that's why a lot of players.
And to your point now, at this point, I keep forgetting like that Mario came out in like 83 or some shit. Like it was so long ago that people are like. By the time, to your point, 2 and 3 were way past regular.
Yeah, I think
way past.
I think 2 was 89. I think so. Yeah, you got 4 years there, and then 3's hitting in 90. So yeah, I mean it's fucking 5 years. I'd be real surprised if Super Mario Bros. 1 held on. Into 1990 on the top 30. So yeah, maybe that is. Celebrity Profile is on Rain Pryor, who's apparently Richard's kid, and I was not aware he had a daughter that acted, so this was news to me. And she is a series reg on Head of the Class at this time, and that's her big thing as far as, looking back even from today. There's some TV guest star spots peppered across the rest of the 90s, and not really a ton of movie stuff at all. So Head of the Class was the high point for sure. It does appear she's doing some TV writing these days, though, that is in development and whatnot. So good for her. She's working in another way. Were you ahead of the class? I watched it in syndication.
No, like it. I feel like whenever that happened, I feel like either I wasn't the right age for it, or it came on Saturdays when I wasn't allowed to watch TV at that time. Like it just.
I think it was a weekday primetime deal. I think
something didn't line up.
Right. Yeah. No, it was. We did watch ABC stuff. It was an ABC show. We did watch Roseanne. Was certainly a thing in my house. We watched that kind of weekly. But yeah, I feel like ABC was not a channel that made a lot of Fox, a lot of fucking Married with Children type shit, and a lot of those like Fox was all those like America's Most Wanted and Unsolved Mysteries. I think that shit was all Fox. I think. Rescue 911, I feel like it was a Fox deal. Like we didn't watch a lot of NBC or ABC. We're kind of on the outside looking in as far as our family television time went. Galaga is the arcade game it's her first video game crush that she mentions, and then at the time of the interview, she's jamming on Tetris on her NES a lot. Is the NES game she talks about the most. Pack watch for future shit. After that, there's 4 games that are nothing like I'd never even heard of any of these. Or I shouldn't say heard of them as far as properties, but heard of them as games or engaged in any way, shape, or form.
Power Blade is great when it comes out. I love that. I was just like,
really?
Oh, I saw that and I was like, oh, Power Blade, yeah.
To me, it's like I don't know that you couldn't pick 2 more nondescript words.
I know, but because I know that as a game, like it was one of those games that got rented and like, wow, this turned out to be a really fun game. So I definitely recall that.
I think it's coming up. I think it's a cover game coming up. So
would not
we'll
be surprised.
talk about it, I suppose. Then there's Euphoria. UFO-oria, maybe it's supposed to be pronounced, from Sunsoft. Sunsoft usually makes good games, but I've never heard of that one. Yeah. There's Tailspin, which, Capcom is great, and they do all those Disney games, and maybe it's good, but I never played it. And then Star Wars from Lucasfilm Games and JVC. I don't think this even makes it out. I think we've talked about that already. So I also hate Star Wars. So that doesn't mean anything to me. They do have a Winter CES piece as part of this, and it's written by and from the perspective of Howie himself. And yes, like I already said, he's super hyped about Battletoads here. And then he mentions the Final Fantasy Legends sequel. There's some RPG goodness, a bunch of RPG goodness coming for Game Boy, and that sequel is the banner title from that. And then your boy Ultimate Warrior was in the Acclaim booth to hype up WrestleMania Challenge at CES. And dude, I look at that, like, I swear that's Malibu from the American Gladiators in that photo. I fucking swear that's Malibu. That's so funny. He does not look like fucking Ultimate Warrior to me, so I don't know what to say about that. Small photo is probably the thing you say the most about it. So nothing really being available to play at CES as far as this goes, but they do take the cue of the announcement of the SNES, having a full reveal at the June CES in Chicago coming up here in 91. So they dedicate a full page to some planned third-party support for it. And yes, you already mentioned earlier in the mag, Street Fighter is mentioned here. And, it's not mentioned in Street Fighter 2. It just could not be more preliminary. It's just like Street Fighter as a concept. You might know it from the arcades. It's just, I don't know. It was notable to me how nondescript and small of a blurb it got, given what that game franchise
becomes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It was hilarious.
They didn't even know at that point.
Yeah. The other three I'd never heard of and didn't mean anything to me. The Gradius 3.
Oh, Gradius is good
interesting.
Franchise,
because Gradius is good. We played that. It's a Game App alum. Gradius. No. What was the spinny one? That was not Gradius. Gradius is Life Force, which we should do in Game App on, but we have not. What was the one where we were on the tube, the Tempest-like tube? What was that called?
The Tempest-like tube. I do not recall.
A space flying shmup.
There have been so many space flying shmups.
Yeah, too many. Episode 102. Can't remember them all. Anyways. The gossip section at the end of Pack Watch has a blurb about some RPG material coming down the pipe. They mention a potential Might and Magic port of the PC series to the NES, but I don't think that happens. I'm pretty sure that is a Genesis thing. I certainly recall it being on. I think Electronic Arts ultimately does them for the Genesis, so that doesn't actually hit NES. Not sure if it does have NES or not. Wizardry 2 is in the works for the NES. Jab will be excited about that. And then Final Fantasy 2 is cooking for the SNES, and that does make it out. And that will be our next Final Fantasy installment whenever we get to that. And then the next issue teases a litany of stock video game titles, Swordmaster and Power Blade and Sword of Hope. It's just like fucking, again, just like nondescript ass fucking words, video game words. It's almost right there with those all those Z games. Just like I can't even begin to differentiate these. They mean nothing to me. And then the one that is differentiable is Monopoly, so get hyped about that. They're so far behind too. It was on the SMS like 3 years ago. Probably better, no less. It's fucking just hitting NES now. It's wild to me that it took this long, but not gonna be excited about that. The letter from Howie that gets tacked on after the next issue stuff is just more blathering about Battletoads and then some shit about his vacation and whatever, Howie.
That is the overworld map theme from Hudson's Adventure Island 2, which is a good game, we've determined, at least preliminarily. Bringing us into this next section.
So let us talk issue power meter aggregate. This is a yikes 59.82 overall as far as the entire spectrum of power meter scores. The plus minus of that relative to the cumulative agenda across all Nintendo Power issues to date, which is a 66.51%, so well below par with a 59 and some change. The highest is G.I. Joe and Princess Tomato at 72, and the Adventure Island 2 score is right there at 71.5%. And the lowest is the pathetic Harlem Globetrotters Abomination with a poo-poo phenomenon, 48%. So now you may bling us into the nominations, Jay, with your, I don't know. Could be 3, could be more. We shall see.
All right. First and foremost, Star Tropics. I'm going to talk about it all the time. Star Tropics.
You want to do that as a game app? You want our next game app to be in fucking 2026?
I kid. Outside of the beauty of the great spread that we had on that game, I was originally thinking Metal Storm because I thought there might be enough there, but then the more I went through it, I was like, nah, I can't. I don't want to play a whole lot of this after all. Like, that does not sound fun. So, like,
sadly.
Yeah, right. My true nominations, and it's interesting because I've never beat this game or even really played much of it at all. Metroid.
Was that? I guess that's in the top 30. Okay.
I never played it, so I was like, all right, I've never. Like, I know people have played Super Metroid. Like, to me, I'm just like, the whole franchise. People are like, oh, the whole reveal thing. Like, I don't know anything about it. Like, I've only what people have told me because I've never.
That's a game, bro. That's an undertaking.
I don't know.
It's not too much for a game app, I don't think. But it is a lot. It's an undertaking.
I mean, also like the whole Metroidvania, it's a thing. Like, I'm like,
right.
It came from this.
I mean, it is. I mean, I did that. Yeah, I did the Kill Quest on it years ago. It's a little bit. It's kind of like Kid Icarus. I think is in the same category of like. It's a little bit of a fucking.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, no. I mean, as far as like the fact that this podcast hasn't covered it, it's like ignoring a historical cornerstone to the system to date is a little bit irresponsible, I think. So yeah. I like that's an interesting suggestion.
So there's that, and then G.I. Joe, of course, because I had a freaking blast playing G.I. Joe, surprisingly. So yeah, I mean that's really it. Like I have 2 legit because I played Metal Storm, and again I was like, all right, I just don't know that I want to play a full episode on it. But realistically, Metroid and G.I. Joe.
Okay. Well, we have overlap in G.I. Joe. That's on my list also. The others I have are Adventure Island 2.
Yes.
And Mega Man 3.
And
then also, I think it's in the top 30 as well, but it certainly had a number of mentions in the awards. Solar Jetman. As I always said, I'm trusting it until we do it.
Yes.
So those are my 4.
Man.
There's the easy G.I. Joe thing that we both suggested, and I don't think anyone would be upset that we do that game. It's probably going to be around if we want to table it a little bit.
What else did you say? You said
Adventure Island 2 and Mega Man 3.
Adventure Island 2, that was a good one too. That's a good one too.
I
feel like I'm leaning between those 2. That and G.I. Joe.
Adventure Island? Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like, it's the one out of all the game that we've talked about that I'm least familiar with. So
same.
Inherent in that comes a lot of risk of something sucking. I didn't get sick of it. I just stopped playing it. So if you want to push it, I don't think I'll fight you on it. It just does scare me.
Yeah, I don't know how big it is. That was my thing. Like,
yeah,
because I can play Mario 3 and fly through all 8 because I know it. But like this,
yeah,
game,
but that was a 2 episode. We're not doing 2 episodes. I'm not doing 2 episodes.
But that's what I mean. Like, I don't know how big this is. Like, if that's
that's what I'm saying though. Like, I'm not. It scares the shit. I guess that's as much of a fear as it ends up sucking. Is that there's so much there that it becomes like that, and that there's no. I don't see how it can be good enough to warrant that kind of attention. So, what the downside of that is obviously then you're either cramming it into one, and that we didn't know we were going to do 2 episodes on Super Mario Bros. 3. It was just like we just can't do this anymore. We got to stop. we can't.
I say we go G.I. Joe. Let's go G.I. Joe.
Okay.
I mean, we need it. We could Adventure Island 2 isn't necessarily going anywhere, and we could always come back with a little more
information.
I
haven't talked you into because I like the Metroid idea. So what if I cut a deal with you? What if I cut a weird side deal with you here?
Oh,
no. What if we flip a coin between Metroid and Solar Jetman?
What? No, that's a terrible between something I was like, all right, I'll throw this on there, and something I absolutely don't know.
It makes me sad, man. Solar Jetman's so interesting. It's all nominated for all those awards. How many games on there? Like I said, there were a few on there, Jay, where we were like, I don't know if it belongs in this grouping. But there was nothing on those lists where we were like, oh, fuck that game.
I mean, I don't understand why Solar Jetman was on any of those awards, but that's just me.
Because you haven't given it its fair shake, and it's
oh my gosh.
There's too much of an uphill climb right there at the beginning. You can't just you got to know what you're doing. You got to read the manual. You got to do the steps that you're supposed to do before you play a game in 1990 to enjoy and fully embrace.
I will. I just think with Real American Heroes, I will have more of a good time than Solar Jetpacks.
Solar Jetpacks. Okay. Not hearing receptiveness here. Okay, we could play G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe.
We'll play G.I. Joe. I guess there'll be a bunch of fun. Can find a bunch of fun fucking, I don't know, stuff about the IP to dig into to make that a fun episode too, which I guess is cool. Okay, I think I'm a little sad about it. I thought maybe I had you on the edge there with cutting that deal. I thought maybe I could get it out of you.
No. You gotta come harder than that. A lot more top tier enticing to put Solar Jetman
to get us to Solar Jetman. Huh? Okay, I'll start cooking up a better plan, a better tactic to get us into that one. Okay, so we're gonna play G.I. Joe next, and that will come. That will come next, and then we still have Sega Visions is AWOL for another month, so March 91 only has GamePro for us before we can get back to our Sega Visions kick in April. So GamePro 20 will come after that game episode, and then yes, Sega Visions will return with issue 4 in April. That's exciting. Doing the Sega side is always fun for me. So you can subscribe to the pod on the platform provided by whatever dumbass company that serves up your pottering. Please rate and leave positive shit for the pod on that podcast platform of choice, or any other for that matter. The website is nyehentertainment.com/ISOHpod. You can email us directly at isohpodcast@gmail.com. Follow the pod on Facebook and or Instagram at isohpod. You can a link to the YouTube gameplay videos playlist, master playlist, is on the show notes as well. There's the ISOH subreddit if you want to get down with something on Reddit. If you don't have a Patreon, but if you'd like to give money to things podcasters tell you to, you'd like to do so at our direction. The Able Gamers Foundation creates custom gaming rigs for gamers with disabilities. That's cool as fuck. AbleGamers.org is where you can find them. We are rocking t-shirts that are on the website right now that benefit Able Gamers after pod expenses. Jay, what are your socials?
Gentleman JB without the second E. Let's go game.
I am on Twitter at Josh Folan. Go Bills. There'll be lots of Bill stuff there for the next few months if you like Bill stuff. And then my Instagram is mychefkeyisbroke, and that is also my Oculus game tag if you want to. I don't know. Did you see that fucking, did you watch that video of that fucking Skyrim game I sent you yesterday?
No, I did not watch it.
Woo! That shit looked hot as fuck.
I'll have to go check it out.
And I actually found the Batman trailer too. I didn't know that was out. There's a Batman trailer as well for the VR game coming.
Ah, okay.
So, yeah, I finally thought to follow the Meta Instagram, which is full of videos for cool games. So
imagine that.
Yeah, duh. Imagine that. Okay, bye.
Bye.